So I'm going to start a new series of videos focused on the first ladies of the United States. And there's about 46 of them. So in today's video, I'm just going to do the first 5. And then eventually I'll probably compile all of them into one longer video. So first up, we got Martha Washington. Notice the hair. That is just a short male haircut, actually. A lot of head coverings going on. There's a lot of stuff going on the head, but unfortunately hair is not one of them. And I do kind of wonder, like, who is this person? I don't think Martha Washington even really existed. There's really no evidence. If you read the biography of Martha Washington, it's all a little bit sketchy and strange and unclear. It just doesn't really add up to a real person. You know what I mean? So I don't know who this is, but it's quite possible this is another prominent figure, one of the founding fathers of America. So my guess is that this is kind of like a part-time character that somebody played once in a while. They would pose for a painting, maybe make a couple appearances here and there throughout the year, but not too many. Probably just a fake character, a fictional character, basically. But I just wonder, is this Thomas Jefferson? You know, is it John Adams? Like, who is this? Is it George? I don't know. I would guess it might be another prominent person, and this is some kind of ritual that they do, because this is all about balancing the opposites, getting back to the singularity. This is an ancient occult practice, by the way, so there's nothing new about this. If you're asking yourself, why do they do this? You can see my other videos, but it's basically their religion. It's Kabbalah, Freemasonry, alchemy. They believe that human beings are supposed to be androgynous. It looks like that guy Grandpa from the Munsters. All right, now we go on to Abigail Adams. It does kind of look like some old dude dressed like a girl. And again, we don't really see the hair. It's got this weird bonnet on the hair again. Another head covering and some weird veil or something. But if I just look at this face, some of you may say, well, it's just kind of an ugly old woman. But just kind of look into the eyes there, and it kind of looks like a creepy old dude to me, right? Especially that nose. There's some masculine features going on in the head. And that's mainly what we're going to get, is just headshots and these kind of photos. We're not going to really see the hips today. But I think if you just look in the eyes there and just try to think, is that a man with makeup on? I think it is. And again, who was it really? That's the question. I don't know who they really are. I don't know if they dress like this full time every day. Probably not. Here's one. Jefferson. Martha. Here's another Martha, otherwise known as Martin Jefferson. Who is this guy? Is this something that future presidents need to do first? You know, this is some kind of androgynous ritual, part of the initiation process. But that, to me, it looks pretty obvious, like a guy in drag. Probably just a wig. And Martha Jefferson was actually the daughter of Thomas Jefferson because his wife died. So the official story is that Martha Jefferson kind of filled in and was an occasional host and therefore served as First Lady. So I do think this was basically a part-time gig. Maybe all they did is pose for a few paintings here and there. Otherwise, they probably just dressed like men and had some kind of male identity. These were like well-known men at the time, I'm sure. So it says here, Martin Jefferson Randolph, another male name, was tall and slim with angular features, which describes a lot of men, doesn't it? And red hair, and was said to have closely resembled her father. Well, maybe because it's a boy. It could have been the husband. Okay, so the husband actually does look kind of similar, who was governor of Virginia. So maybe that's how it works. You know, you got to be the first ladyboy first, and then you get promoted to some kind of official post as your male identity. And this dude looks pretty strange as well. The proportions are just not even accurate at all. And also Thomas Jefferson, again, I think he looks somewhat similar to Martha Washington, but I don't know if we'll ever figure out who these people really were. So this is Dolly Madison now, the number 4. And just take a look at that face. So again, they put the head covering on the head, bit of hair sticking out, which could be some kind of wig. And then they even have some kind of neck brace. Does this person have whiplash? What's going on with that neck brace? The whole thing. See, they're covering up the entire neck. Why? Well, maybe it's a male neck. And look at how strange that guy looks. That's the president, President Madison. Looks like a total freak. He might be some kind of seraphim. This photo, too, doing the same thing. It's the same costume, right? Kind of sitting there, but you can see how broad those shoulders are, how long the arms are, trying to cover up the hands there. Yeah, that's like an old dude. So they try to make these people look like homely, unattractive women that you almost feel sorry for. Like, why can't they ever put an attractive person in? I guess they tried with some of the recent ones, but we'll get to those eventually. And I think this is the first one where we actually have photographs. But whether it's a photograph or a painting, it's not quite passable. So the painting has female breasts, but I don't think the photos do. And what is that? Is that a painting from when it was younger, I guess? So again, pretty masculine looking features. Feminine clothing. Probably had to make these custom made. Even this here looks like a pretty masculine arm there. So apparently Dolly Madison was the first Ladyboy who actually took an active role. So maybe that's when they started to make this a full-time Ladyboy position. And you just think that someone would have noticed, you know what I mean? I mean, if we can tell by looking at these photos and paintings, people who came in close contact certainly would have gotten a good whiff. So actually, this photograph of Dolly Madison has been manipulated. You can see it's the exact same photograph that's been reversed. And I don't think Dolly Madison is actually sitting next to anybody in either photo originally. It's like that photo has been photoshopped to make it look like Dolly Madison is sitting next to someone else in both photographs. I don't think they're original. I don't think either one of these is an authentic photograph with two people in it. Dolly Madison has been inserted into the photograph of someone else. So what's going on here? More fakery, more questions. Now this photo is interesting. Dolly Madison is the second from the right, but look at the face. It's all blurred out. Everyone else is pretty clear, but Dolly Madison's face is like blurred out. Why? Well, maybe they're trying to cover something up there. Either that or it's shape-shifting, which wouldn't even surprise me at this point. And moving on to the next one, which was Elizabeth Monroe, who, again, this one apparently was not very active or social. Not too many photos or paintings even available. And it says here, despite the fact that she was First Lady for 8 years, very little primary source material exists on Elizabeth Monroe. No correspondence between her and the president, her family, and the general public has survived. Maybe because this person didn't exist either. The first documents in which her name appears relate almost exclusively to legal, financial, and property matters. So again, a very mysterious and elusive character from history. And the shoulders do look pretty broad. Pretty huge body, actually. And again, with kind of a strange head covering. Now the nose simply could have been painted smaller. See, that nose looks too small for the face. So I think this is a painting, and all they did was paint the nose smaller and feminize the painting. So again, this one here looks a bit more masculine. It's kind of difficult, and painting's obviously not the best evidence to use, but that's really all we have for this person here. So it has the sloping shoulders, but it also has this huge thick neck, kind of a big head. And this is the daughter of Monroe, who also looks pretty masculine to me, you know what I mean? I mean, that looks like a transvestite to me. That's President Monroe's daughter. All right, so that's it. So that's the first 5 first ladyboys of the United States. Make up your own mind. You know, you got to be able to see it for yourself. Some of them are a little difficult because they're, you know, such a long time ago. We only have paintings or photos in somewhat poor quality. None of them are what I would call attractive. So I'm going to go through all the first ladyboys, and we'll see if they're all ladyboys or not. You know, there might be a few that are difficult to tell, you know. So it's going to take a while to go through these, and maybe I'll do about 5 at a time or so. Otherwise the video gets too long. And then maybe what I'll do is compile them all into one longer video later on for easy reference. As usual, do your own research and think for yourself, and see you next time. All right, this is part 2 of the first ladies, or the first ladyboys, and we're kind of getting close to the mid-1800s here, and you'll notice some of the presidents had 2 different first ladies, usually because their wife died, so their niece or daughter-in-law filled in. So the first ladies, especially in the early days, were not always the wife, quote-unquote wife of the president. So someone else filled in. Sometimes 2 other people filled in consecutively or even at the same time. So we're going to start with Louis Adams, Louisa. Just add a vowel at the end of a male name and you become female, apparently. Adams, Adam, like Adam, the first man, the cosmic androgyne, according to Kabbalah. Now, is that a man playing the harp or a woman playing the harp? Quite a masculine face you have there. It doesn't take a whole lot of imagination to see what's going on with the harpist. And again, funny head covering. And there's another painting when it was younger. Looks like a wig, but again, you see the masculine bone structure in the face, right? And it is kind of interesting how they didn't try to paint that out. And it does seem to kind of resemble the president, John Quincy Adams. Very prominent family, so who knows what's going on there. I don't know if that is John Quincy Adams or if they're related somehow. They could have been brothers, cousins. And there's the mother of the so-called First Lady, by the way, who also seems a bit masculine. So still we're dealing in an era of paintings. John Quincy Adams was a member of this drag queen society at Harvard University that just by coincidence I recently did a video on called the Hasty Pudding Theatrical Club, Men in Drag. Harvard's Hasty Pudding Club for 170 years has staged theatricals featuring silly plots, collegiate humor, and men in drag. Presidents from John Quincy Adams to JFK belonged to the club. They're all in the club. Hasty Pudding Theatricals, the society where people cross-dress, and all the famous male actors go there and cross-dress every year. John Adams and John Quincy Adams. John Adams was the second U.S. president, and then John Quincy Adams was just a few presidents after that, all in the family, right? You got to be a drag queen to be president and to be first lady boy. It's just a big drag show. That's all it is. We're living in Sodom. So the next 2 were the first ladies with President Andrew Jackson, but they were not his wife. His wife died. I think this was his niece, and then the next one was his daughter-in-law, although this was actually his nephew, I believe, and the next one was his son-in-law. So with this one, this is really the only painting I could find, and it looks like one of them is somewhat touched up based on the original. So it's basically the same painting. And it is kind of strange if you look at the shoulders. Yeah, they are sloping at almost like a pyramid. And then the neck looks pretty large. And again, the jaw and the chin are fairly masculine. On the black part, it almost looks like the shoulders just keep getting wider. The proportions on the body just don't make any sense at all. This one actually kind of looks like Julia Roberts with a slightly smaller mouth. Pretty thick neck. These are the ritual transvestites. These are called, in the Bible, they're called sodomites in the King James Version. In the ESV, they're called male cult prostitutes. They had a ritual function. And I do kind of wonder what role they play in government. Maybe these transvestites are actually in charge. I think they do more than just kind of stand around dressed in drag. They could be channeling the principalities and powers who actually run the show. You know what I mean? Van Buren, daughter-in-law, pretty large bone structure. This one kind of reminds me of Cher, but generally someone with a large head and thick neck is going to be a transvestite and not actually a real woman, you know. Again, with a wig, makeup, and these weird things on the head. Now this one here, Harrison, this is probably one of my all-time favorite transvestites because it's just so obvious. Again, the head covering, right? This person probably just has a normal male haircut, short hair, barely put on any makeup at all, put this thing on their head, and posed for the painting. I don't think this guy was walking around in drag the whole time. There's no way everyone would have known, right? Very strange. Like, who is this guy? When he's not dressed up in drag, is this a president? Is this Mr. Harrison? Is this the vice president? Is it the next president? You know, so sometimes I still have many questions about what's going on here. But this is Freemasonry, all right? That's what it is. This one's pretty obvious, right? I think everybody who saw this, I mean, you'd have to be like really, really brainwashed to think that that's a real woman. So this one photo here, I think for most people, you could prove that at least one of the first ladies was a transvestite. Now, these two first ladies actually served at the same exact time and for only about 1 month because President Harrison died shortly after becoming president, like a month. He only lasted a month and then he died. And for some reason, he had two first ladies. One was his wife, who was, I think he was kind of sick at the time. And then the other one kind of helped out and filled in, who was the daughter-in-law. So this is a strange one. So far, the most obvious one, and just posed for this painting. And we don't know much else about this person at all, really. Now, Jane Harrison is probably the most difficult so far to tell. If it is a man, it's one of those guys with kind of a boyish face, you know what I mean? I wish we had more paintings or even photos of this person, but some of these people died kind of young, so they didn't even really exist when photography was invented. All right, so that concludes part 2 of our ongoing investigation of the first Ladyboys of the United States. Hopefully in the next episode, we'll start to see more photographs, but just remember this was in the early 1800s, so they didn't have any photography yet at that time. I suspect this phenomenon of transvestites in the White House goes back to the ancient Greek hieros gamos, sacred marriage ceremony, where the king would have a transvestite as one of his concubines, or even his wife, the queen, and that was to channel the goddess. The queen, the transvestite basically becomes the goddess, and that's kind of why they call them drag queens these days. You know, all these queen of pop, queen of soul, queen of country, right? They're all queens, and that means drag queen. You can call it satanic or demonic. There's obviously something supernatural going on inside these people. And I think it's a way for the government to tap into and communicate with and become subservient to the principalities and powers and authorities who are really running the show behind the scenes, commonly referred to as the fallen angels, because they're part of the drag race. So the word race has a few different definitions. Any one of the groups that humans are often divided into based on physical traits, regarded as common among people of shared ancestry. So that's the usage in drag race. It's a different race, all right? That's why they call it the drag race. They are drag queens. They're androgynes. They're demigods. They're human angel hybrids. A group within a species that is distinguishable. Yeah, they're androgynes from others of the same species, they may actually be a different species. A group of people sharing some habit or characteristic. Yeah. So the drag race show is not about a competition. That's not the definition they're using. It's not a contest. It's not a competition. It's really just code for a distinct group of people. In fact, it's code for a different species. So those flags represent the angel wings and the black and white checkerboard dualism. The V is the angel wings here, so the V that we see all the time represents angel wings. And there it is again, a fallen angel, essentially. Part of the creation trying to ascend into the heavens. The eunuch priest with the sun god symbolism, the crown, the corona, and there's our good friend AOC, Cortez the Killer, future President of the United States. I'm sorry to tell you, I regret to inform you that this demon hanging out with another demon / alien is going to be a president of the United States at some point pretty soon, I believe. AC, Antichrist. It's a race of drag queens, all right? It's a different race, and they have invaded Earth, and they are exterminating humanity as it is written in the Bible. There's only one way out of this.
Join the revolution. I'm Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I pledge allegiance to the draft. And I pledge allegiance to the draft.
All right, so this is part 3 of our investigation into the first ladies. You decide if they're a lady or a lady boy. And we're going to look at the years 1841 to 1850. And you'll notice that President John Tyler had 3 different first ladies. His first wife died, and then his daughter-in-law became first lady. And he even had an unofficial first lady, his daughter, and then he got remarried. So really, he kind of had 4, basically. So we're going to look at all 4 of those, and then we'll look at a couple others. So there'll be 6 people, I believe, total in this video, even though it's only about a 9-year period of time. And starting with John Tyler and his 4 first ladies, first of all, you'll notice that he has an obelisk at his grave in the Hollywood Cemetery, Holy Wood, which is in Virginia. And there's Letitia, the first wife who died shortly after he became president. Now, we are getting to the age where we do have some photos in today's videos, but there's still some paintings as well. You would think that there would be more photographic evidence of these people, but this certainly looks like a man to me. You make up your own mind. Decide for yourself. Nice dress, but could that just be a man doing a little bit of cross-dressing? It appears so to me, in my opinion. That's his daughter there, Letitia Tyler Semple. A little bit difficult to tell, but kind of a manly face there. You know, so we don't have great evidence to have a lot of conviction. Some people would say that's a woman. I'd say it's difficult to tell. I would say it's a man. And then his daughter-in-law was official first lady, who was an actress in Shakespearean performances. But wait a minute, weren't all these Shakespearean actors men? Didn't men play the female roles as well? I do believe so. So the Tyler's second first lady was a Shakespearean actor playing female roles, had costume parties with Dolly Madison, who we saw in a previous video. They like their costume parties, their drag shows. And there's his second wife, who was the third first lady. Again, we have most of the body covered up. Even the neck is completely covered up, along with the head. There's a strange head covering and even some kind of veil that's off to the side right there. Very strange photo, but it looks like a man's face to me. Kind of reminds me of Mike Myers. See, it's just kind of a matter of how you look at these people. Most of the time, we don't even question these things, but I think it's time to question everything. Sarah Childress Polk. Now look at that. Just tell me, is that a man or is that a woman? Just look at the photo and what do you see there? And if you're not sure, ask a 5-year-old child, but I don't want to traumatize the child, so you might not actually want to do that. But just imagine there's a 5-year-old child and you said, is that a boy or girl? They would say, that's a man. Why is the man dressed like a woman? So this would probably go in the top 5 First Ladyboys category, and this is Sarah Polk. You could just show the photos to your friends, who will not be your friends anymore, by the way, after you wake them up. People don't want to be woken up. People love to be deceived. But anyway, if you felt like waking people up so you don't feel so alone, knowing this dark, twisted truth of this strange reality we live in, find someone who you think might be interested in this kind of thing first. Some people absolutely do not want to know this information, and they will just avoid you like the plague after you show them the truth, because they hate the truth. I mean, none of these people have been pretty at all so far. You'd think a president would find a pretty woman. You know, most of these people were quite wealthy, influential. Now, we saw this photo before with Dolly Madison, second from the right, and the face is all blurred out, I think, because it's such an obvious dude. But here we have Sarah Polk, I believe, is the one in the middle. And so there's another photo of Mr. Polk. And we'll see James Buchanan in the next video. He actually didn't have a wife, so his niece, who was probably the nephew, filled in. I think that's the guy doing the hidden hand, the Masonic gesture. So here's Margaret Taylor. Now, apparently, there's only 2 photos of this person. It's like this person was first lady in the mid-1800s, and there's only 2 photos? Are you kidding me? Now, I know photographs were kind of a new thing at the time, and there's a painting. Whoa, why didn't you make it look pretty? It's a painting. You could have painted it a little bit better. That's like a dude, right? That's a man. I mean, you think they would have executed the guy who painted that. It's like, no, do it again. Make it look like a woman. No, they deliberately painted it pretty accurate, I believe, because the people are that dumb. All right, so that's enough. So we got 3 and 1 more. So there were kind of 4 first ladies, really, for President Tyler. Now the daughter, it's really difficult to tell. We don't have a very good painting there, but I think we can safely assume most of these people were ladyboys and not ladies. They were queens, right? Queens, drag queens. There's a few obvious ones there, right? The obvious ones are useful. I know for some of you experts out there, you're like, well, those are so obvious, it's kind of boring. We already know that, right? Well, there's a lot of people who don't know this, all right? So it's worth doing. I've done videos before on the first ladies, but not all of them like this. We don't even know if these people even really existed, right? And who were these people? You know, these men in drag. And were they in drag all the time, or did they have a male persona? And then once in a while, they would pretend to be the first lady. So again, there's always more to investigate. I can't cover everything in a 10 to 15 minute video, but at least we can see clearly that the dude looks like a lady, and the first lady may actually be a lady boy. All right, welcome back to the First Ladies, or the First Ladyboys, as some people like to say. This takes us to 1850 to 1869, including one of my all-time favorites, Mr. Jane Pierce. And we'll also take a look at Abraham Lincoln's alleged wife, who may or may not be an exception to the rule. So we are getting to an era now where there's more photography, but not as much as you might expect, considering these were public figures living in the White House. Now here's Abigail Powers Fillmore. This one certainly does have a lot of power. So I would say good choice of middle name with this one. Again, that stupid wig with the curls, which we've seen like half these people wearing, and the head covering, and something covering up most of the neck, right? It's kind of a pattern. That's just a dude, clean shaven. Now this looks like a photo from when it was older. It kind of looks a little bit different than the paintings, but put something around the head and the neck with some hair coming down like a wig. But the face itself looks pretty male to me. And the more I look at these two people, I don't think it's the same person. I know one is a drawing or a painting, but the nose looks very different. So I'm not so sure if those are even the same two people. Wouldn't be too hard to change people back then. Now here's Jane Pierce, and what does the name mean here? Let's look at the middle name. Jane means Pierce. Well, there it is. Thanks for telling us. Pierce. This one pierces. But look at that face. Is that a man or a woman? I mean, what's the deal with that face? And there's the curls again. You can see the curls are just some head covering thing put on the head, right? That's not even the real hair. See, it's just this headpiece that has a few locks of hair on it. Look at that brow bone right there, right? So those curls are like a wig. Got the veil and the head covering and the black glove and the dress. I mean, this is something out of a vampire movie or something, right? It's obviously a man. And it's got some strange gloves. It's got like one black glove. Maybe that's where Michael Jackson got the idea. Or is this like a Darth Vader kind of a thing? What's going on here? And they have really strange looking dresses. These are almost like priestly garments. You know, these male cult prostitutes, these transvestites had kind of a priestly function in their religion. These people are actually channeling the spiritual entities. See, these people didn't have any surgery or anything like that. This is just a man wearing a wig and a dress. I don't think he walked around like this all the time, because that would have been way too obvious. And who knows how tall these people were. I mean, someone like this walking around, you're like, whoa, that's a dude. That doesn't fool anybody. And remember, back then, first ladies were not seen by the regular people very often. These people were not on TV giving speeches. Nobody really saw these people ever. So again, here's another one. There's been about 3 so far that you could just, even the most brainwashed person in the world, you could simply show them the photos of these people, ask them if that's a man or a woman. Don't tell them who it is. Don't tell them it's the First Lady. And they'll probably say it's a man, unless they're completely brainwashed beyond the point of no return, which many people are. Then you tell them who it actually is. It's the First Lady. And they'll kind of shut down mentally and emotionally. And they won't say a word, and they'll walk away. And you'll probably never see them again. And if you read the little bio there, it says, disliking politics, she was unhappy in the role, often unable to perform her duties, as she suffered from poor health as well as grief for the death in childhood of all 3 of their sons. So a lot of them have these kind of stories like that, where they were reclusive and kind of distant from other people in the public, which I think would be a pretty good cover story as to why you don't see these people very often, right? And these people, who knows, they could actually be the person in charge of the whole thing, because they have a direct connection to the gods. Harriet Lane. Okay, now this was the niece, or possibly the nephew, of James Buchanan, who did not have a wife. Probably hanging out at the Hasty Pudding Club a little bit too much. That very well could be a man, and in fact, I think that is a man. A little bit pudgy man. See, there's not a lot of photographic evidence or visual evidence at all with these people. There's a couple photos, if you're lucky, and a couple of paintings. That's all you get. Mary Todd Lincoln. Todd. Todd, I believe, is a male name. I went to school with many people named Todd. It was kind of a common name back in the day. Abraham Lincoln's wife. Now, it's difficult to tell. It kind of looks like an Eskimo or something, but I'm not convinced this is a real woman. But this might be one of the more difficult ones to be sure of. And I think it's because it's kind of pudgy. See, the fat covers up the bone structure. And what's the deal with all that? This one has a lot of strange head coverings as well, all the time. Bow tie. And this is like another priest outfit. I think the government is just some kind of cult. Look at the head coverings and the flowers in the hair. Is it just kind of a homely woman, pudgy woman with masculine features? But this photo, you can kind of see the angular jaw a little bit better, and it does seem to have a more masculine face. Of course, the dress is huge on the bottom, so we can't even see the hips or the lower half of the body. So that one looks more masculine to me. And it does seem to be of some different ethnicity. You can kind of see the shoulders there, right? The broad shoulders. Is this person Ukrainian? Looks like Eastern European man or something, actually. So I wasn't really sure about this one at first. This could be kind of like a pudgy European man, possibly even Jewish. That would be my guess. And there's Johnson. Now, is that a painting or a photo? A drawing, maybe? But you get a good profile of the bone structure, the brow bone. None of these people have really had a feminine hairstyle at all. So they're not really full-time transvestites. I mean, that's what that tells me. So that one's obvious. And there's the daughter of President Johnson, just as an added bonus, who does have pretty masculine bone structure in the face. And see, they want to keep this hidden. I don't think they want us to know about this because they also have an agenda attached to this. This is their religion, and they practice this for themselves. But their religion has an agenda to it. It has an eschatology. It has a goal, just like most religions do. You know, most religions talk about the origins of people and the destination of people, you know, the destiny, the future. And they talk about getting back to the Garden of Eden, to our original state before we fell, you know, from our original creation. And these people certainly have all of that, but it involves androgyny. Dude looks like a lady. And another thing we've seen is that I would say almost half of these first ladies were not even the wife, the alleged wife of the president. They were the daughter or the daughter-in-law or something like that. So things were a little bit different back then. But the androgyne remains the same. And you do got to wonder, are these first ladies, are they the ones who are really in charge? Because they're like the shaman. Now, they may have just been the advisor to the shadow government. Now, we know these presidents aren't really, you know, they don't really have power. They're just kind of the figurehead. This whole political system of the United States is complete illusion and deception. Did they ever have elections? Is the United States even a sovereign country? Has it ever been? Did these people even exist? What do presidents really do? What do the first ladies really do? Are the first ladies even ladies? Well, I think we know the answer to that, at least. All right, welcome back to the First Ladies. I believe this is part 5, and we're going to look at the years 1869 to 1897. So we have another interesting cast of characters, some of them obvious, some of them not so obvious, some of them you may not even be sure of. So we're going to cover about 8 people in today's video just to help finish up the 1800s. And also this person, Frances Cleveland, was First Lady 2 different times. As usual, some of these people were the wives, the alleged wives, and some of these people were the alleged daughters or sisters even. We're going to see a few sisters, quote-unquote sisters. They may have been twisted sisters. So let's start out today's video with Julia Boggs Dent Grant. You got to have lots of names if you're in the elite, in the ruling class. Alleged wife of Ulysses S. Grant from the Civil War era. Rather masculine looking face. Looks like kind of a serious person, covering up the neck, as we've seen many times. One of the first things they're told when they enter the White House, they say, hey, you got to cover up the neck. All they got to do is stuff the bra a little bit, and those breasts are actually too high on the body, so those are not real breasts. Wide shoulders, masculine demeanor in the face, isn't it, right? Is that a man or a woman? See, people just think they're ugly women. No, they're not ugly women. They're ugly men, I guess. Here with the demon babies. Covering up the neck, strange haircut. This is the first lady to visit China. This one almost has kind of a Chinese look. And we're going to see, especially in today's video, these people don't look like white people. You know what I mean? Like they look like they're from a different ethnicity. I thought all these people were white, but I don't think they are. We're going to see it more obvious later on. You can see there on the bottom it says they were referred to as the American king and queen. It almost looks like a Chinese dude. I don't know. Where is this person from? I think they're all kind of from the Levant. They might be Babylonians, actually. We'll see it more clearly later on. So I think that's a man. But see how they had these dresses, right? That would flare out at the bottom, and there's some kind of infrastructure inside of those. Those are not the hips that make it look that wide, obviously. All right, moving on to Lucy Ware Hayes, wife of Rutherford B. Hayes. And this one, I think, be a man. See, it's not going to be obvious to people who only look at the surface of things and don't question the reality. Again, covering up the neck, strange hairstyle. Oh, yeah. See, there it's quite obvious. I mean, to me, at least, that's obviously a man. It just never occurred to people to question these things, right? Nobody questions. Nobody asks the questions. Nobody looks. Nobody thinks. Things might be different than what we've been told. It's their religion. Why do people get circumcised? Why do people put rings around their neck? Why do people put things in their ears or their noses? Why do people eat wafers and drink wine and grape juice? Why are these people androgynous? Well, it's their religions. They believe it's what they got to do to be in covenant with their spirits and their gods, and even to become gods, mainly. You got the fake wide hips on the bottom with that dress, right? Yeah, that's like and again, doesn't look like a white person to me. And the reason I talk about race is because it is part of forensic anthropology. It is good to know where these people are from, because people do have slightly different bone structure in different parts of the world. All right, so moving on to Lucretia Rudolph. Oh, Rudolph! A male middle name, again. See, this one, most people would just look, oh yeah, that looks like my Aunt Gladys. You know, so most people are not going to question it. Now, this one, again, we see that finger pointing down. I've seen that about 3 or 4 times now, looking at these photos of first ladies. And you see it today. They still do it, right? They do that finger pointing down pose. That's got to be intentional because you see it all the time. And what does it mean? We can talk about that later. But look at the skull. So is that a masculine-looking woman? Or is that actually kind of a feminine-looking man, I guess you could say? Or is it something in between, right? Covering up the neck, again, strange hairstyle. Ooh, yeah, getting a little closer now. It looks like a feminine-looking man to me. You know what I mean? The brow bone. Or when it's younger, it looks a lot more feminine. Is it all just a disguise? You know what I mean? Is that a man or a woman? Pretty angular face you got there, right? Look at the jaw, the bone structure, the brow bone. That's a masculine-looking face. Now even the painting looks even more masculine. Like they should have feminized the painting more. So I think they're kind of proud of their androgyny. You know what I mean? They're proud of it. They are the ruling class. They're different than us. We are the plebeian masses. We are the cattle, the farm animals, the slaves. Mary Arthur. Oh, there it is again. Another male middle name. Why is your middle name Arthur? Now, maybe people did that back then. Have to investigate further. Now, this was the sister. We're going to see a few sisters, a few twisted sisters today. hostess acting as first lady, a drag queen. It's like, see, a lot of these first ladies were not the wives or the alleged wives. So why did they have to have a first lady? Like they could have just said, oh, well, I guess we don't have a first lady this time. It's like they always had to have a first lady. Why? Because it's a ritual function for their cult. The androgyne has a ritual purpose there to please the gods, to channel the gods, to become the gods. The government works for the demons, and they work with the demons. And I think the demons are actually deceiving them quite often as well. So that's another dude, I believe. Neck covering again, by the way. Now here's an interesting one. Rose, every rose has a thorn. Rose Cleveland, another sister. All right? We got two twisted sisters in a row. We're not going to take it. And the official story, as they do, lesbian. I think what happened is that people started to ask a few questions and started saying, hey, how come that dude looks like a lady? So good cover story for the androgyne. Oh, it's a lesbian. That's why it looks like a man. That's the narrative we're going to run with. See, some men do look a little bit feminine if you think about it, right? Now, I'm not going to say this looks feminine, but it doesn't have a huge beard or anything. It's a feminized man, as they did back then. I don't even think this person has breasts, right? Are there female breasts there? I don't think so. And look at those bony, broad shoulders. Not massive, but relative to the rest of the body. The corset just squeezes in their waist, and then they flare out the dress on the bottom. So I guess that's the same person when it was a little fatter at some point. And here you got the angel wings, right? A little androgyne. But here it's got the, see, I think what happened is they fattened this one up. They tried a few different strategies. They're like, well, it's too obvious. It's obviously a man, so let's try to fatten it up. And they did that later on. And then they said, well, let's just say it's a lesbian, which kind of means it was heterosexual, if you think about it. All right, now here's Frank, Francis Folsom Cleveland, otherwise known as Frank. And I'm not kidding about that, all right? People think I'm making this stuff up. We're going to see that this person's name was Frank. Look at that. Look at what it says right there. Francis Clara Cleveland Preston on the top. Born Frank Clara Folsom. Frank. Then it says below, early life, first given the name Frank. Why would you name your daughter Frank? Who does that? No, it was born a son. It was a boy. It is a boy. And then they just feminized it, all right? It's like circumcision, but it's androgyny. They don't stop with circumcision. They just keep going and feminize the whole damn thing. Now, this person looks Persian to me. That ain't no white person. Now, it could be Jewish. It could be Babylonian, right? Because the Persians came in, conquered the entire ancient world, basically, before Greece did, after Babylon, right? So it was Babylon, and then Persia, the Persian Empire, was massive. And I think these people, they trace their bloodlines back to the ruling elite of the Babylonians, the Persians, the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Zidonians, the Phoenicians, the Greeks, the Romans, whatever. These are the ancient ruling bloodlines. That ain't no white person. There's no way I could be related to this person. That's like an Egyptian or a Persian, Middle Eastern, Jewish, whatever. A Canaanite, a Babylonian, whatever it is. It ain't what they told us it was. And what's with the little sun god thing on the neck? You know what I'm saying? Covering up the neck with your little sun god, star of Remphan. Symbolism there, right? The star of Remphan, the star of the gods or the goddess who they serve as the little cosmic androgyne. That's a little Persian boy. That's what that is. And this person was 21 years old when he became First Lady, married a 49-year-old President Grover Cleveland. While he was president, a 49-year-old man married a 21-year-old boy. All right? Proud to be an American. And yes, he was a Democrat, but we're going to see it doesn't matter if they're Democrats or Republicans or independents or left or right or up or down. There's always something in between. And there's the daughter of Grover and Frank Cleveland, Esther Cleveland. A real beauty. I think that one's ready to join Twisted Sister and Poison on the reunion tour. Look at those broad shoulders. But you could almost imagine it having facial hair in this photo, right? It would be like, yeah, if it had a little mustache and a beard. Look at that cleft chin. The whole face looks masculine. And then you got the shoulders are masculine, right? It's got the corset pulling in the waist, right? Quite a bit. The corset on that dress, this person cannot breathe. It's got the collar around the neck, and it's got the feminine dress with the corset and then the fake hips, right? There's stuff inside the dress that flares the hips out. That's how they did it back then. Look at that. Right there, that's just a flat-out corset. And they just stuffed the chest with something, right? These people were not getting surgery back then. It was makeup, hair, clothes, corset. We can see the corset pulling in the waist. Man, and you got the long arms and doing some kind of weird Angela Merkel sign. These people are from the ancient bloodlines, and they practice the mystery religions, right? The ancient mystery religions dating back before the flood. Before the flood. It predates Egypt, Greece, Rome, all that stuff, even Babylon, even Persia. This is the most ancient religion in the world besides Yahwism. Adam and Eve dropped the ball, and these guys took over. Look at those shoulders, right? What's the deal with your shoulders? See, on a real woman, the hips are kind of the center of balance. And on a man, it's the shoulders. And then they got the fake hips. That's their version of the fake hips back then, those dresses that flare out. Here we got Caroline Lavina Scott. Harrison, you got to throw in the male middle name, Scott. Now, it could have been the person's maiden name, but either way, they like to keep that in there. Again, shoulders, trying to cover it up with that weird dress, the fake hips flaring out from the dress. Now, some people would say, well, you know, older women don't look as feminine as they used to. That is true, right, with some people. But again, you got the neck covering there. You do have a very masculine-looking face there. You know what I'm saying? And conversely, older men don't look as masculine sometimes, right? So is this an older man, a feminized older man wearing a dress and makeup? Or is that an older woman who looks more masculine? You'll have to decide for yourself, I guess. If you just kind of stare into that face long enough, and you can kind of see the man, I think. I think you can see the man. In fact, it's quite obvious in this photo to me. A little bit pudgy. And what's with the crescent moon on your neck? See, these are the Persians or something, right? These people are from the ancient Near East bloodlines, and they're keeping the traditions alive. The mystery religions, wearing their little priest outfit, their eunuch priest, transvestite. These are the Kadesh, all right? These are the transvestite priests of the mystery schools. That's a dude, all right? It's an older man, and they kind of curl up the hair a little bit. Wow. I mean, people must have noticed this. People inside the cult, they all know about this. And now that person died while the president was in office, while President Harrison was in office. And then, see, they could have just said, well, the first lady died, we don't have one now. But no, the daughter stepped in then, right, and became first lady. Why do they always have to have a first lady? I think there was one time they didn't have one for a while. And is that the daughter, or is that really the son? Right? Some pretty feminine clothing you got there, but what about the actual person? What's the deal with that face? And again, it looks like a Persian boy or some kind of Middle Eastern boy. You know, a Babylonian, Jewish, I don't know exactly, Egyptian. I mean, what's the deal with these people? Who are these people? Maybe they're Nephilim. Maybe they're fallen angels. You know what I mean? They're aliens. Alien just means foreigner. They could be aliens from a different country or aliens from a different realm. So to me, that looks like another boy. So again, that one, you got the shoulders and the fake hips on the dress and the little demon baby. And again, there you go, right? Kind of an angelic kind of pose there. Maybe they actually took this in a different realm, but it looks like male bone structure. The shoulders, the low body fat. Where are the breasts? Male face, right? That looks like Adam Ant or something. It looks like an androgynous rock star, right? It looks like one of these transvestite rock stars from the glam rock era. So we're almost halfway done with all the first ladies. So who are these people? Where do they come from? I don't think they're Caucasian or white or whatever. I don't know if you can even use those words anymore or what they even mean. Probably related to the European royal families, right? So I can't claim to know exactly where they're from, but I don't think they're from around here. Some people will call them the seed of the serpent. Now, I don't know if that's literal or spiritual. Either way, they are the seed of the serpent. So, another little history lesson that they didn't teach you in school. I remember I used to have flashcards, and I memorized all the presidents of the United States when I was a little kid, like 5 years old. I don't know if they have First Lady flashcards. I don't think they were part of the whole thing. It was just the presidents. They forgot to mention that all the women were dudes and all the presidents were married to men. They didn't tell us that the fallen angels rule over the government and the government serves the fallen angels. They don't serve us, although they do serve us on a platter once in a while. They failed to mention that everything we see is a lie, for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, the archons, right, the archos, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers, cosmokratoros, the cosmocrators. All right, we're wrestling against the cosmocrators, the cosmic powers, over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. So in this video, I'm going to focus on only 3 first ladies and then focus on some of their family members also. We're going to have a lot more photos to choose from, and we have more photos of their extended family. And we're going to see some anomalies amongst these people. So we're going to look at McKinley, Roosevelt, and Taft. And first up is Ida Saxton McKinley. What's the deal with your hair? Little star symbol as well on the neck, like we've seen many times. So again, the neck is covered up, right? Masculine face, right? The bone structure in that skull indicates to me that this is a man. Now the shoulders and all that is kind of covered up with clothing. Pretty extravagant clothing, by the way. I would have to say that's a man. It's a reverse mohawk. Is this person playing a punk rock band? This looks like a vampire. This looks like something out of a horror movie. So it says here, she never recovered from losing their daughters as infants and remained in a fragile state of health for the rest of her life, including having seizures. Possible child sacrifice, but more investigation needed to be sure about that. But it kind of looks like somebody who would sacrifice children and drink their blood in a movie. That's all I'm saying. Not sure what this headgear is all about. Looks kind of angelic, right? These people are basically believe they're demigods, the ruling class. Kind of's got that Julius Caesar type of look, you know, like an ancient Roman emperor would kind of look like this. Now, the real question is it human? And I'm not so sure that's human. Now, it could be that the human body is used as hardware and the demonic spirits are kind of like the software, right? Now, there's President McKinley, who I think is probably just a real man, but I think his wife is also a man. And they actually have fairly similar faces. I wonder if they're related. They could be cousins. They might even be siblings. You know, I don't think President McKinley just kind of met this person in a bar and they hit it off and they started dating and then they got married. You know what I mean? Like, these are people who live very differently than we do. They protect their bloodlines, but these people are not mating normally, are they? So they're using surrogates or some other very strange and advanced form of procreation that we can't even imagine. This is a way for the demonically possessed transgendered entity to inhabit the White House, right? Which is where you want it to be, because the fallen angels control the governments of this world. And this is how they do it.
Our ways are not your ways.
All right, there's Kermit. No relation to Kermit the Frog, I'm told. Edith Kermit Roosevelt. Here's a Roosevelt. Now we're going to see Roosevelts pop up here and there, and we're going to look at a few of them today. Teddy Roosevelt was the president. Teddy and later on FDR were both members of this hasty pudding theatrical drag show secret society / social club at Harvard University. All right, there's Teddy Roosevelt, and then later on you see FDR, J.P. Morgan, William Hearst. These guys are all part of the Masonic drag club at Harvard. So I was looking at this page on FDR, and I came across this. Now, what is this? What do you think that's supposed to be? You're going to say, well, that's probably his daughter or somebody. That's obviously a little girl, right? This is a boy, and this is FDR as a boy. No way. Way. FDR dressed like a little girl. Probably is a little boy, but that's how they dressed, and it's called unbreeched. And let's take a look at what this is. Breeching was the occasion when a small boy was first dressed in breeches or trousers, so that's when the young boy wore normal pants, as we say in the United States. Young boys in the Western world were unbreeched and wore gowns or dresses. Now, I'm not so sure about that. I've never heard about this. It says here, young boys wore dresses until an age that varied between 2 and 8. And they say here it may have something to do with potty training or something. It was difficult to tell the girls from boys. Breeching was an important rite of passage in the life of a boy, where he didn't have to wear a dress anymore. See, that's a boy, and that's how they dress. Basically, they're saying here in this article, little boys dress like this. But I think it may have been just the ruling class who did this. Like, why would you want to dress your little boy up like a girl? That's not good. Boy and probably girl. See, they can't even tell. So the boys dress like this, and notice he's doing the little devil horn sign. So it's not much of a stretch to say that some of them continued to dress like this. They just never took off the dress. See, what it's saying here is that little boys were dressed as little girls. And then later on, they started to dress like boys. And this one even has a neck covering up the Adam's apple. So this is not just toilet training like it says in the article. This is the ruling class traumatizing their children to break them by cross-dressing. All right, and some of the men then later on started to dress like boys again at the age of 5 or 8 or 18, as we'll see. But some of them, they just kept them in girls' clothing the whole time, and those are the transvestites. Prince Ulrich of Denmark. The hair and active dog show the gender. Oh, okay. Because there's a dog, apparently that means that's a boy, but it's dressed like a girl, right? Now, what if you just said that was a girl? Everyone would think it was a girl, right? The eldest son of Philip IV of Spain, Charles II of England, before he was short-coated, holding a teething corral. And that teething device in the hand kind of looks like a bloody castration knife to me. And maybe the dog even represents someone being neutered like a dog. Louis XV, dressed like a little girl. Looks like a girl. Frederick the Great, dressed like a little girl. Alfonso, Prince Imperial of Brazil, holding a stick and a hoop. See, they're always holding this little stick. I don't think that's just for teething. It's something else as well. It's basically the circle and triangle. It's the circle and the phallus, just like an obelisk is surrounded by a circle. That's what that is. It represents androgyny. Nicholas II with his mother, dressed like a little girl, right? Reminds me of that movie with, what was that movie about the Gong Show host? They dressed him up like a little girl, apparently. And you see the girl holding the stick, surrounded by the hoop. Circle and triangle, obelisk, androgyne, once again. And there's FDR. Franklin D. Roosevelt, at the age of 2, dressed like a little girl. So this is what these people are doing. So Roosevelt, of course, related to Teddy Roosevelt, and they're all part of the ruling class. and they're all related. So there you go. It tells you right here, breeching, well, it's really unbreeched. Unbreeched are the ones who wear the dress. Right here. Unbreeched boys wore dresses till a certain age, between 2 to 8. And you know what? Some of them just never took off the dress, and they pretended to be women their entire lives. This guy was kept in a dress until he was 18. Yeah, how did that turn out? Roosevelt family, whose members included 2 U.S. presidents, a first lady, various merchants, right? The merchants were the kings of the world, and your nations were deceived by pharmakia. Delano family, U.S. presidents, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Ulysses S. Grant is part of the Delano family, Calvin Coolidge, 3 presidents, astronaut, Alan B. Shepard, all right, otherwise known as a liar, and writer Laura Ingalls Wilder, Little House on the Prairie. These families are very different. Now, there's nothing wrong with working hard and being successful, but these people are born into great wealth and power, and they are part of a controlled breeding program, and they're all a bunch of androgynes, and they worship different gods. And there's Kermit, pretty crazy outfit you got there, so it's hard to tell what that is. But yet that face is pretty masculine. It's nice and smooth. May have used some aloe vera. But you do see a pretty strong upper body and shoulder area. And again, you do see masculine bone structure in the face, especially the jaw, the nose, the brow bone, eye sockets, even the mouth area, cheeks, cheekbones. The dress is very feminine, but so that might be difficult for some people to spot. Covering up the neck. That's one of the main things they did back then. Extravagant clothing, right? In the houses of kings, they wear effeminate clothing, as Jesus said. I don't know when they started injecting or using estrogen and female hormones on these people. Probably in the early 1900s. There's when it's older. Again, you could almost go either way on that one, right? It does kind of look like an older woman, but could it be an older transvestite, right? That one's kind of hard to tell. In fact, up to this point, in all the first ladies, there have not been any real women, in my opinion. They've all been men, every single one of them. Yeah, so is this the exception? And here's the first wife of Ted Roosevelt, who died after giving birth, 2 days after giving birth, apparently. So did this person really give birth? Was this a woman? So this is Alice Hathaway Roosevelt. Alice Hathaway about her. Again, I would question if that's human. Remember, these Roosevelts were the elite family back then. There's holding some kind of phallic symbol, it looks like to me. Why is this person holding that phallic symbol kind of right where the phallus would actually be? Kind of makes me wonder. Did this person really give birth? Did this person really die? Is that little boy on the left? You know what I mean? The posture there is pretty masculine. So we don't have a lot of photos of this person, but supposedly died in childbirth. And we're going to look at the daughter as well, who came out of this person's body, allegedly. There's the daughter from Teddy Roosevelt's first marriage. The mother died right after birth. Alice Lee Roosevelt Longworth grew up in the ruling class. Again, it kind of looks like a transvestite to me. And there's Alice, when it was older, looking pretty masculine. Kind of looks like the bass player for Metallica with brother Ted Jr. He kind of does look like Kermit the Frog there a little bit. He looks a little bit like an amphibian. His mother was Kermit, covering up the neck, holding a dog, which may indicate that this is a boy, by the way. Kind of difficult to tell a really old lady from a really old man, you know what I mean? So not the best photo to use necessarily, but it's just another photo. We have a lot more photos to work with now. And here's the youngest daughter and fourth child of Ted Roosevelt, known as the Queen, the First Lady of Oyster Bay, the Queen, the drag queen. Looks like a little boy. Looks like a little drag queen to me. Look at that chin. So they're kind of smoothing out the face. It could be the makeup they're putting on, reacts to the photography in certain ways with the light. All right, so moving on from the Roosevelts, we're looking at Helen Taft. Married to William Howard Taft, 1909. Very big hat, slightly smaller neck covering than we've seen before, but yet it's still there. Is that like a collar? Are there female breasts there? Not so sure. Don't really see any. No, I thought women had breasts. Maybe I was wrong about that. Pretty large body overall, broad shoulders. The hips, again, are expanded because of the clothing. That's not bone structure hips. Oh, there's a pretty serious neck covering again. These people dress like royalty, don't they? They think they're kings and queens, and I guess they are. We are the serfs, the subjects. Yeah, so again, some of you may think that's a woman. The nose looks pretty small. Did they have rhinoplasty back then? Maybe that's why this person looks so sad. Looks like he's in pain. But that mouth area, the chin, it does look like a male face to me. That's been feminized. And some men are kind of easier to feminize than others, I think. So I think you could almost go either way with this one. I personally think this is another drag queen, one of the more difficult ones to really be sure about. Does have a pretty thick upper body, and I'm not talking breasts. And the question is, at this point, considering that everyone up to this point has been a drag queen, like why would there suddenly be a real woman in the White House after over 100 years of having only men play that part? Now here, the dress, you see the different colors on the on each side of the body. That's some androgynous symbolism, right? Half male, half female. Now look at these four people here. Looks like four drag queens, right? The other three are actually more obvious than the person we're looking at here. But what are the odds that this person is playing a role that has historically been played by men, and then it's hanging out with a bunch of drag queens, but yet it's a real female? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really make sense. And it just happens to be taller than the other drag queens, right? It's not easy to get a sense of people's height in a photo, but I think that person is taller than the other dudes, right? So is the real female going to be taller than the other drag queens? So there you have it. 3 first ladies. McKinley is quite obvious, and no children there. They apparently died at a young age as infants. That doesn't mean that person is a vampire. And the Roosevelts, we went on a little bit of a rabbit trail there looking at FDR, who was a future president than the time period we're looking at today. We came across some very valuable information about this unbreached boy, where little boys were dressed like little girls, and they referred to that as being unbreached. And then they would breach them and start dressing them up like boys at a certain age. And just think how traumatizing that is. I'm going to talk about that more, but that helps us to understand these families and the children of these families, because we're going to start looking more at the families of these people now that we're in the 1900s. There's a lot more photographs of the first ladies and the children and the cousins and the parents and everyone, right? They're all doing the same things. It's a way of life. They're female illusionists. Sometimes it's easy to tell, like McKinley. Other times it's not so easy. And then we have Taft, who in this photo here, ironically enough, it looks a bit more masculine to me. So again, my conclusion would be that all 3 of these are drag queens. And we saw with the Roosevelts, especially some of the children as well. I'm open to having exceptions to the rule. As somebody once said, the exception proves the rule, right? So it's okay if there's exceptions. It's okay if there's real females in the White House. But I'm just not so sure we have seen any so far up to this point. Now maybe we will in the future as we continue this investigation. And I know it gets a little tedious sometimes, but this is what we have to do. We're doing something called focused observation. Could any of these people be females? Maybe there's been a few that, well, maybe they could possibly be masculine-looking females, but could they be drag queens? That's actually the more likely explanation. Most of them are fairly obvious to me. Some of them are a little bit more difficult to spot. Going forward in this investigation, each video might just focus on the one family, because we can look at the entire family now with all these photos. And the next video is going to be the family of Woodrow Wilson, the fascist. Welcome back to our investigation of the First Ladies of the United States to see if they're men or women. It's kind of sad that we even have to do this, but we do. All right, now in this video, we're going to focus only on one president, Woodrow Wilson, the fascist, because he had 3 first ladies over the course of 8 years. All right, so we're going to look at his first quote-unquote wife who died while serving as first lady, and then the quote-unquote daughter took over for a while, and then he got remarried. So he had 3 first ladies, and these people had some children. So we're going to look at the Woodrow Wilson fascist transvestite empire. So first up is Ellen Axon Wilson, the Axe Son. Now in this photo here, you can see the mass, the density, and even the buoyancy, the overall size of this person. That's a large woman. It's a whole lot of Rosie, but it might just be one of these fat drag queens that you see on RuPaul's Drag Race. Looks pretty masculine, if you ask me. Just a lonely transvestite wondering where it all went wrong. Maybe has a little bit of regret and remorse. Was it worth it? Now, it looks like the bra is stuffed there, and there's even something on the front of that shirt, but we're going to see later on this person doesn't really have any breasts. And standing next to Woodrow, who's the more masculine-looking person, right? And almost looks taller than the husband. He does have a bit of a feminine quality to him. So some of you may think he's FTM. Maybe he is. I don't know. I'm not really looking at that right now. Now, the dress appears to have a feminine shape, but we know that they can just change that with hip pads and all that kind of stuff. But if you look closely at that face, there's something not quite right. It's got that large hat on the head, just another way to divert attention away from that masculine face. This is where I start thinking this is a fat drag queen because there are no female breasts. It's a flat chest on a fat man. I cannot discern any female breasts there. In this person, a fat woman like this would have some breasts. I think this is kind of a fat man. And then this one died while in office, so the daughter took over the role of first lady. And these are the 3 children, and they're all boys, I believe. In fact, it's pretty obvious, right? So the children are much more obvious and easier to spot. Sometimes you spot it instantly. But I think all these 3 children, these 3 daughters are actually sons. So we're going to look at all 3 daughters today. So one of the most fascist presidents had a bunch of transvestite children. Margaret Wilson became first lady after the mother's death. And the mother could have been a fat drag queen. So the daughter was the first lady, but it's actually the son. I mean, this is a no-brainer. See how easy this one is? And it's because it's not fat. It's a thin man, right? It's so much, I mean, some of them are just so easy to spot. It just takes a few seconds. There's the president with his 3 transvestite sons pretending that they're women. The entire country, the entire world thought that this person had 3 daughters. You still believe in elections? It's just a coincidence that all the women in the White House were transvestites. And there's the other daughter who is actually a son, Jesse. Jesse can be a male name. In fact, I think it's usually a male name, to be honest. Yeah, that's a pretty masculine face you got there. Feminized with hair and clothing and makeup and flowers. Yeah, that's a pretty large face, large skull. This one's pretty obvious. Now, it's a shame because this probably was a handsome young man, right? So this person could have gone on to marry a woman and have children and all that stuff, right? Been a successful businessman. So it almost seems like a waste. Like, why are they doing this? Not a pretty girl, but it could have been a handsome man. It almost looks like that one from Handmaid's Tale, but this one's even more masculine. Oh yeah, see that? I mean, I know men who look like this, right? Little drag queen princess in the White House. Again, a couple of transvestite siblings reading a book. Well-educated transvestites creating the income tax system. Thank you so much for that. In fact, this one looks like a lot of actresses, right? And some of these daughters actually were like singers and actresses and stuff. And there's some kind of wedding. They got the old Addis, the castrated Addis hats on. Looks like a bunch of transvestites to me. And it does look like real men in the back. That's just my opinion. That's what I see. But it also looks like real men in front, too, dressed like women. All right, so here's another daughter, the youngest daughter, who, again, is actually a son. You could have been a son, right? Remember that song? Kurt Cobain. You could have been a son. Well, it was a son. You could have been a son if they would have taken off the dress, but they didn't. They forgot to remove the dress. These people are unbreeched. Head covering. Now this one has the neck exposed. Nothing like seeing a man in a wedding dress in the White House. They had a lot of these weddings at the White House. And this would have been like a big deal at the time. Look at that hand. And again, pointing down like that. That's a man hand. No breasts. Almost looks like it has a hairy chest. See that? Look at how thin the body is. This one has very low body fat. That's a lean, kind of normal looking man, really. It's just wearing a dress. That's the strange thing about this one. That's why it looks different. Yeah, that ain't no beauty queen, that's for sure. And see, if these people are like the elite and they're supposed to be, they're supposed to have superior bloodlines, why are all the women so ugly, right? The wealthy people marry other wealthy people from wealthy bloodlines. You'd think all these women would be quite beautiful, right? Well, it's like, no, these are like some of the ugliest women you've ever seen. Why? It's because they're men. Now, this is the third first lady of Wilson's fascist regime, and he got remarried. So now this one became first lady, first drag queen, and I think this is just kind of a wide-faced, pudgy man again. And this one, actually, now what happened is President Wilson had a stroke, and he was kind of incapacitated, kind of like Joe Biden, but he was incapacitated for like the last year of his presidency, and some people think this one actually kind of took over. Yeah, so this transvestite, may have actually kind of secretly been acting president. There is the first lady, the first drag queen, helping Woodrow Wilson, sign some executive order to take away people's freedom. Nothing really changes. I think we need to bring back the top hat, by the way. That one's got a small little neck covering there, right? A little collar. It's kind of a pretty strong-looking woman. That jaw is pretty wide, actually, if you think about it. And, is that an older lady? We've seen this a few times with these first ladies. When they get older, are they older, kind of less feminine-looking women, or are they older drag queens? I'm open to the idea that there have been exceptions. There's always exceptions to everything, right? But I'm not quite convinced we saw any real women today. I mean, as far as I can tell, every single first lady has been a man. But we saw how the elite are raised as they raise their boys as little girls to start out with anyway. And we saw that the three daughters of Wilson were pretty obvious. So it just seems to be the way these people roll. And, we do kind of understand why. It's part of alchemy and the mystery traditions. Balancing the polar opposites opens up the portals to the spirit world. And these people are in power, right? So they get a lot more power when they invite in the principalities and powers. The real rulers of this world are the fallen angels, right? I mean, it's all very biblical. God has his people, but the fallen angels also have their people. And the children were also inverted, so it does make you wonder, where do the children come from? Who's giving birth to these children? How does that all work? The simplest explanation would simply be surrogates, kind of like they do today. I just saw one of the Kardashians had a surrogate baby. Of course, the headline was, one of these Kardashians just had a baby. And then if you read the fine print, it's like, through surrogate. So, they just using surrogates is the easiest explanation. Maybe the transvestite was the father. Maybe the transvestite impregnated the surrogate, or it was an IVF thing, and then they put it in a surrogate. But the sperm could be coming from the transvestite. And same with these first ladies, right? So and that would make a lot of sense because they're the ones who are connected into the spirit world. The demonic babies through their demonic sperm. And keep in mind there may be some photographic trickery going on. And I did notice some in previous videos. Are these photos really of the people they claim to be? Could there be dual roles? And I did notice the first and last wife of Wilson, they do kind of look similar. Is it possible that's even the same person? I'm not sure. I'm not really focused on that right now. And one of my subscribers even mentioned to me maybe a photograph of the son could possibly be a photograph of the father when he was younger. So of course there's many possibilities with these people. A little bit difficult for me to prove right now. That's not my main focus, but at least I think we can see that these women are men. It's not that hard to spot for me and hopefully for other people as well. Think for yourself. If you're new to this topic, take your time. Don't just believe what I say. Investigate further for yourself, because the truth sounds a little strange when you live in a world full of lies, and the truth is unfortunately stranger than fiction, and there's certainly a lot of fiction in our reality. In fact, most of what we believe to be real is actually fiction, and they do this intentionally. That's how they control the masses. They give us these narratives. They lie to us about certain things, and we discover certain lies, but there's always more lies. So they're lying to us about the sex of the people in the photographs. They could be lying to us about other things as well. Just something to keep in mind. And of course, some of these men I'm showing could actually be female to male. I'm just not really focused on that. That's kind of a different mindset I have to get into. And it takes a long time, and it usually leaves me not fully convinced either way, and it's kind of frustrating for me to do that process. It would make the videos twice as long. Maybe somebody else wants to take a look at all the presidents someday. Please go ahead and do that. Don't let me stop you. But Satan's been kicked out of heaven. He's on earth now, deceiving us as much as possible before the end, trying to drag as many of us down with him into the lake of fire and sulfur and brimstone. So if you want to join him, you know where to go. If you want to join him in the lake of fire, just roll up your sleeve and go to Walgreens. All right, that's it for today, and see you next time. Welcome back to another episode of the First Ladies of the United States, to see if they are ladies or ladyboys. And today we're going to focus on the years 1921 to 1933, featuring three First Ladies: Florence Harding, Grace Goodhue Coolidge, and Lou Henry Hoover, one of my all-time favorites. So we can already see this is going to be a good one. So let's begin. Florence Mabel Harding, known as the Duchess, and I believe it says here had a son in a previous marriage, but no children with the president. And now this one here, could that possibly be a man in drag? I do believe so. I don't think it's too difficult to discern a man wearing a dress and a wig and some spectacles. The hair kind of throws people off a little bit, kind of like this one. Kind of reminds me of the church lady. It's a good chance that's where this guy got the look. He's just like, hey, I got to dress up like some women for a comedy skit. Let me look at the first ladies to see how they did it. Yeah, this one almost looks like it kind of, using a bit of prosthetics on the face. Kind of got that rubbery texture, like a man in a mask. Again, wearing lots of hats and the ubiquitous neckband. Oh, yeah. Kind of got that Dustin Hoffman and Tootsie look. And where are your breasts? Yeah, see, they didn't really bother too much with stuff in the bra. That's all they really had to do. I guess they didn't want to look too sexy. They wanted to look like the homely first lady. So you got the hats and the dress. No one's going to notice. No one's going to suspect that the first lady is a drag queen, just like the emperor has no clothes. Because it's kind of shameful for us to be a citizen in a country where the first lady is a drag queen with no breasts. It's a little bit shameful. It's better just to deny it and embrace the illusion. Masculine hands there. Spectacles, wig, dress. Clean-shaven face. There it is with the neck covering again. Her finest picture. Well, not so sure about that. There's one photo of when it's younger. I couldn't find too many when it was younger, but again, looks pretty masculine if you ask me. Make up your own mind. Choose your delusion. You have the right to remain deceived, if that's what it takes to get you through the day. So apparently President Harding had a child with his mistress, but not with his wife. The mistress wrote a book in 1927 after Harding died in 1923. He died while in office. And it says here, Harding's family condemned the account of the affair as false at the time since it was believed that the president was sterile. So maybe because Harding's alleged wife, the transvestite, was not producing any babies, they thought, well, President Harding must be sterile. That's why they're not having any babies. But the answer is simply that the president's wife was a man. There's Harding and the first lady with the neck covering and the flamboyant clothing. Ain't no baby coming out of that body. And now we got some photos of this mistress and the child. This is the child that Harding had with this person here, this mistress. Apparently that's supposed to be a daughter, by the way. Although here it looks like a little son, doesn't it? They had this son, and then they had to dress it up like a girl. The name is Elizabeth Ann. So this person was raised as a girl, as they do, right? As we've seen with Roosevelt, that's what they do. That looks like a little boy, but then they raised it as Elizabeth Ann and started to say that it was a girl. If that's a girl, that's like the meanest girl you've ever seen, you know what I mean? Looks like a pretty tough, masculine young man. And there's Harding doing the doing one of their favorite poses. So things are not always what they seem. Now let's move on to Grace Coolidge, 1923 to 1929. Kind of got that Yentl look going on. You got to change your sex to understand the secrets of the Kabbalah and the Talmud and the Zohar. Yeah, could that be a little Jewish prince? Again, not a whole lot of breasts going on. Square shoulders. Oh, look at that. He's even dressed like a man there. Yeah, I mean, that's just Yentl. This is kind of a serious-looking transvestite. Very serious about dressing up in women's clothing. This one has flamboyant clothing. Now, this would make a good addition to the RuPaul's Drag Race. Again, some hand signs going on there. Ooh, when it was a bit older, huh? Masculine bone structure in the face. Large nose. No breasts. Soft lighting. Feminine clothes, but masculine bone structure. There you see the square shoulders, and the dress kind of flares out because that's just the clothing, not the hips. Flat chest. Now this one was involved in, what do you call that, knitting? Yeah, so it must be a real female if it's knitting a scarf. That's what they want you to believe. Well, therefore, it must be a real woman. That's the story they told people. Now, moving on to one of the greatest first ladyboys of all time, Lou Henry Hoover, 1929 to 1933. Now, I'm no expert on names, but Henry is actually a male name. It's a masculine given name. Females have names like Henrietta, etc. How many women do you know whose middle name is Henry, or any masculine name for that matter? Lou grew up something of a tomboy. Well, that's an understatement. I would say Lou grew up something of a boy. Bushy eyebrows. That's just a man. That's a man face. Really no explanation needed. It's amazing they even let this one in front of the camera. It actually kind of looks like Donald Trump in this photo. And it also looks like Dennis Hopper. This one is pretty funny, if you ask me. Maybe this was just a comedy. You know, I bet the people on the inside were just laughing. I bet these people just had a gay old time being in on the joke. These people just must laugh a lot at us. Oh, nice feet you got there. High heel shoes. Yeah, there's the Dennis Hopper or the Donald Trump look. Kind of dressed like a cowboy. Again, they're just dressing like men now. So they might even be heterosexual men. They're probably not really married to their husband. Or if it is, it's just part of some kind of ritual, you know, the Hieros Gamos sacred marriage, where the transvestite married the king to gain the favor of the gods, to channel the gods, in fact, especially the goddess. Who's more masculine? You know what I mean? Not that hard to spot. You can see the Adam's apple there. Again, wearing the hat to try to cover up the head as much as possible. Smooth lighting. They kind of smooth it all out a little bit. Soft lighting. Standing up. Now, it's about the same height as the president. And the president actually has a little bit of FTM qualities because he's kind of pudgy, but I don't know if every fat man is an FTM, you know what I mean? Sometimes men are just fat. More investigation needed there. Broad shoulders. It's just a man in a dress, you know what I mean? I'm kind of running out of vocabulary to say. Now, here's a whole gaggle of transvestites. I'm not sure exactly who these people are. Some of them may be first ladies or other government transvestites, eunuchs, right? Kind of a handsome man in a way, if you think about it. Yeah, there's Mr. or Ms. Hoover, President Hoover. Not so sure about that one there. Kind of a funny-looking guy, but sometimes men are kind of funny-looking. I don't know. This one's kind of funny-looking too, but it's pretty obvious what it is. It's a no-brainer. So this one, this one can be used. There's about 5 of these first ladies that are so obvious that it's undeniable. And what you can do is just show people the photo of these people. Ask them if that's a man or a woman. Now, if they're not totally brain dead, they'll say it's a man. Then you show them who it is. Then you show them that this was the first lady, that it's Hoover's first lady. Most Americans have heard of President Hoover. You don't really want to hang out with President Hoover, but this one kind of looks like a cool guy. If it wasn't wearing that dress, look at the size of that body. It's just massive. And the way it's sitting, cover of Time magazine. Now, that doesn't really look like the person at all. Not a very accurate drawing there. So, all right, so that covers today's episode. Short and simple. Lou Henry Hoover steals the show once again. All right, today we're going to focus only on the Roosevelt family. This is one of the elite ruling class families of America, and there's a lot of people to cover. So first of all, Eleanor Roosevelt, wife of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and these two were actually cousins. So Roosevelt is the maiden name of Eleanor Roosevelt. They're cousins. So that was pretty convenient. Didn't have to change the last name, and was involved in the United Nations and was called the First Lady of the World. There's Eleanor as a young boy. I think it's more likely that's a boy and not a girl. We'll see later on. Now there it kind of looks like a adolescent male dressed like a female. That actually might be passable as a female. There's the, looks like the wedding photo. You do see the broad shoulders, the long arms. Everything else is kind of covered up, including the neck is covered up as well. Husband and wife, but which one is which? A couple of demon babies, and again, Eleanor's in disguise, covering up the neck with a pretty funny look on the face, which seems to have been permanent. And there you have the large body frame, large neck, including what looks like some Adam's apple lumps as well. Yeah, I think this one's pretty obvious. This one was 6 feet tall, taller than most men, actually. That body frame is exactly the same as those other two guys he's standing next to. He's a bit taller, square shoulders, exact same body frame as those two other guys. Look at those wide shoulders, right? Straight up and down, rectangular body frame. All right, wearing a dress and dressing like an old lady. Universal Declaration of Human Rights. See, that's a covenant. And in the interview, he even mentions the word covenant. They're entering into a covenant with humanity just like God does, right? They're playing God. Now look at that face. Let's get a close-up on that. Yeah, come on. That ain't no beauty queen. Looks like a drunken old man or something, right? Wearing in drag with like, it's a drag queen. And there it is right there, right? See, they kind of softened up the face a bit. This one just wore wigs and big coats and hats, furs, glasses. All right, see, look at that. You see more of the body frame there. Those long shoulders, there's male arms. It looks pretty hairy even, this one. I mean, this is pretty nasty. Even that guy, that's the Filipino president. He's looking at it like, whoa, that's a dude. See, there, Eleanor's trying to kind of slump the shoulders down a little bit and just trying to look as weak as possible, but that frame is quite huge. There's Lucille, had balls, worshiping Baal. Lucille also looks to be about 6 feet tall. And of course, you got to have the statue of the transvestite in New York City, right? Because they worship the transvestites, the demigods. Now here we can see the headband. Now, is this the singer for Loverboy, or is that a wig? I mean, it's pretty obvious. What is that? I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's something that old women would put on their heads. I think it's just a wig, and they didn't even cover it up. And here's a few video clips I found. We can listen to the voice, and notice this one. When it's not smiling, it looks kind of like a scary, mean old man. Then it changes the face to become the nice old lady, right? I mean, we can see it do it in 2 seconds. It went from mean old man to sweet old lady. Once you listen enough to these people's voices, they all start to sound the same. They learn how to talk in a higher register.
To explain United Nations and what goes on in that organization.
Israel was a perfectly normal person in every way.
Those who are not employed will need more than they have needed before.
And what's more, he knew how to treat a female impersonator.
Is because we feel that these rights should sometime be actually written into the laws of countries throughout the world. And that can be done by the adoption of covenants.
And as we recall, Franklin Delano, another one of these elite families, the Delano family, Roosevelt, was dressed as a girl for the first 8 years of his life, according to the official story. So I'm sure there's a lot more to it. All right, Franklin Delano Roosevelt from the ruling class Roosevelt clan was a little transvestite baby, and he married a transvestite. In fact, his transvestite cousin, and he was the president for 16 years. And who knows, maybe he just was a girl, right? Maybe he's a female to male transsexual. It's difficult to tell, but keep that in mind. With all these presidents, in fact, they may be FTMs. I'm not really focused on that right now. That's a totally different mindset to try to prove that. But just keep in mind, they may or may not be FTMs. You'll have to decide for yourself. And here we have some childhood pictures. Now, he does seem to have a bit of a feminine quality to him. Maybe he was just dressed as a girl so long, he kind of got used to it. It's possible he was castrated. And it's also possible he's actually a biological female. I don't know exactly what's going on here. He's got that Zuckerberg look a little bit. Now there he kind of looks like a guy. I'm not sure what to make of some of these presidents necessarily. And there's FDR reshaping the world. That's kind of a new world order going on there with these guys from China and Russia and England and all these guys. Chiang Kai-shek, Churchill, Stalin, just hanging out, having a good old time. And supposedly this photo was taken the day before he died, actually. And I think he died while in office. And they had a daughter. This one's name was Anna Roosevelt Halstead, on the Citizens Advisory Council on the Status of Women. See, they're always involved in women's rights and stuff, but they're actually not women, although they dress like women. See the long, gangly arms, low body fat, bony face. Like father, like son. That's the way they roll. There it is. Captain of the ship. That's just a masculine face, masculine body. Yeah, look at the size of that body. It's kind of covered up by the dress, but you can just see how massive it is. And look at those huge feet. And even the forearms on a man are different than the forearms of a woman. Like for me, that's a drag queen. Look at the kind of the flamboyant clothing trying to cover it up. Right? Look at that. Come on. That's a dude. Like father, like son. So if Eleanor is 6 feet tall, then the son is also about 6 feet tall, maybe slightly taller. They like those fur coats. Again, father and son. They do resemble each other. Now that happens with children, but it also happens with clones. The entire Roosevelt clan might just have one mother and father. See there again, you don't really see the breast there too much. This is the daughter of FDR and Eleanor, who's probably a son. Look at that neck, the jaw. Then we got the father of Eleanor Roosevelt, who was the younger brother of Ted Roosevelt. And Elliot was a socialite. That was his job. And he was a drinker, and he actually ended up killing himself at 34 years old. Anna Hall is the mother of Eleanor Roosevelt. Now, I couldn't find any other photos of this one. So it's a bit of a masculine face, but we don't have enough photos to really be sure. I guess I did find this other one. And it does kind of look like a guy. But I wish we had more photos to confirm it, you know what I mean? But now this Roosevelt family is basically royalty. They may as well be a royal family whose members have included 2 United States presidents, not one but 2. And both Ted and Franklin Roosevelt were members of the Hasty Pudding Drag Show Club from Harvard University, which I've made videos on, and various merchants, bankers, politicians, inventors, clergymen, artists, and socialites, and also Olympic athletes and professional tennis players. And they intermarried with prominent colonial families, and they intermarried with each other. And there's 2 different clans, one from Oyster Bay and another one from Hyde Park. But if we just look down here, see, I can't possibly make a video on all these people, but just think about your own family. Does your family have a Wikipedia page? See, this is the Roosevelt family Wikipedia page, and all these people have their own pages, most of them at least, about half of them. So just look at all these people going back to 1623. Mayor's namesake of Rutgers University, right? Henry Rutgers. Granddaughter of President Ulysses S. Grant. Co-founder of the Bank of New York. Co-founder of Chemical Bank. Here's an Olympic hurdler and investment banker. Here's another Olympic gold medalist. Niece of Alexander Graham Bell. Oh yeah, there's a real beauty. A New York City socialite who murdered a man. Not so sure that's a woman. Oh, here's one. Son of Richard Reynolds, heir to the Reynolds tobacco and aluminum fortunes. Producer of 60 Minutes. Journalist, politician, investment banker and philanthropist, tax shelter, Ellen Roosevelt, tennis champion. All these female tennis champions are men. Ethel DuPont, married into the DuPont family. There you go. And this one committed suicide right here. 49 years old, committed suicide. These guys breed horses and they breed humans as well. Yeah, that's a dude. No wonder. This is a gangly transvestite. See, some of these people probably don't want to be transvestites. Cover of Time magazine. Oh, there's Eleanor, 6 foot tall. These people are dragon bloodlines, and they marry into other dragon bloodlines, and then they castrate some of the boys so that they don't spread the seed around too much, right? They have certain people who are used as breeders, others who are castrated and basically take on the appearance of the opposite sex their entire life, and the mannerisms and everything that goes with it. Eleanor Roosevelt was 6 feet tall. Melania Trump is 6 feet tall, and Ivanka Trump is 6 feet tall. Michael Obama, Big Mike, is 6 feet tall. Maybe they only let 6 feet tall transvestites in the White House. They like the tall transvestites.
I can't imagine looking at you and going, oh, you know who'd be great? Eleanor Roosevelt. I mean, I know you're a great actor, but I mean, you know, listen.
When they first offered me the job, I was like, what? I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm short. I'm 5'3".
Oh, that's not.
She's 6 foot tall.
Yeah, oh, she was 6
Yeah.
foot tall.
Now, there may be some real women in these families somewhere. Really, I'm trying to find a real female who was First Lady. I have not found one yet. I don't think Eleanor is a real biological female. So I think Eleanor was a 6 foot tall man, a 6 foot tall transvestite who talked in a female voice and tried to act like a woman as much as possible. We saw the fake smile and the fake mannerisms. These people are pretty good at deception. In fact, they're the offspring of the father of lies. All right, I believe this is part 10 of the ongoing investigation into the First Ladies of the United States, all of which so far up to this point, I believe, have been Ladyboys. Today we turn our attention to Bess Truman and Mamie Eisenhower, covering the years 1945 to 1961. Notice that Bess Truman lived to be 97 years old. A lot of these first ladies lived to be in their 90s, actually. Bess Truman, Elizabeth Virginia Truman. So this is actually Beth Truman, who went by the name of Bess Truman. And we're going to also take a brief look at Margaret Truman, who may actually be a true woman. So you can decide for yourself on that one. There's Bess as a young child. It's difficult to tell with young children if they're a boy or a girl. Usually we make our decisions based on their clothing. But as this person got older, we see that it does look a bit more manly. We see broad masculine shoulders, actually, on this person. Look at those broad shoulders. Come on. That is the bone structure of a man. I mean, that's just what it is. Some of you may think, oh, that's a large-boned woman. But now there's a pretty manly-looking photo. See that? When it doesn't have that curly wig on, without that hair, you just see the male head, the male skull. So this one's a little bit soft. They kind of plumped it up a bit. Got the pearl necklace. Pretty manly looking face. Possibly a wig. In fact, I actually know a guy, a Jewish guy, who looks a lot like that. If you put that kind of hairstyle on him and stuff and a little bit of makeup and a dress, he'd look a lot like this. Now this one reminds me of another government official named Rachel Levine, born Richard Levine. They look very similar. I don't know if they're related or not. It almost seems like they are. Maybe they're from the same tribe. Look at that. Come on. That's like a kind of a soft, out of shape dude. I think a lot of us know guys who look like that, including Dr. Richard Levine, who hails from Pennsylvania and now works in Transylvania, transsexual Transylvania. 4-star admiral in charge of the health of America. And you can see Rachel Levine, or Richard Levine, actually doesn't have a very strong jawline. And we're going to see that a lot today in today's videos. The first ladies do not have a very prominent jaw, but Richard Levine doesn't have one either. And a lot of men don't have prominent jaws all the time. There's the wedding photo. And yeah, it does look like a man there, doesn't it? So he's kind of a thin-faced man. Then they kind of plumped it up a bit. But those broad shoulders remain. He's wearing a dress and a wig, some makeup and lipstick. Now, Harry Truman kind of looks like a normal guy to me. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. And here's the daughter, Margaret Truman, who was a writer and a singer, a soprano. So at first I thought, maybe that's a castrato, but castratos are usually contraltos. Soprano, a female soprano is a higher voice than that. I'm not so sure about Margaret Truman. There's a lot of interviews with Margaret Truman, the daughter, on YouTube, and as far as I could tell, it might be a real woman, actually. So unless it's just fooling me, that's all. It's always a possibility that they're just good at fooling people, but Margaret Truman may have been a woman. Not sure why that is, but that's not the first lady, that's the daughter. All right, so now we're going to transition to Mamie Eisenhower. Mamie, Mary Geneva, famous for the $1 Million Fudge. Mamie Eisenhower's $1 Million Fudge, a.k.a. White House Fudge. So if you're in the mood for a little White House Fudge, here's the recipe. They use marshmallow cream and chocolate. In fact, Mamie was the first person to combine the white and the black. Giving us a little hand sign there. They like this hand sign. You see that all the time. Does have a pretty large skull if you think about it, right? Kind of a funny looking person. Something a bit off. Hard to put your finger on it. Lots of little hand signs going on with these people all the time. I don't always mention it, but you can see it for yourself. Has some bony shoulders going on there. Not a very attractive woman, I might add. Bit of a strange hairstyle there. What's going on with that? Hairline seems to be receding. Shape of the forehead is male. See, this one does not have a prominent jaw, but it does have some big teeth. And this one likes to wear these dresses where the hips flare out like that on the dress, so you can't actually really see the hips at all. Yeah. See, this one I think is a man, and maybe they puffed out the cheeks a little bit. Got the pearls, the dress, the lipstick, the earrings. See, that's the thing. Not all men are all that masculine. You can see there's not much of a jaw there at all, right? But it does have these large teeth. And it wears a certain kind of dress almost all the time where the hips flare out. So it's like wearing a disguise, basically, right? And it kind of looks like a vampire. It's a transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. But you see the broad shoulders there, right? Now that dress is not as wide on the bottom, so you see a little bit more of a masculine shape in the body, right? The broad shoulders, and there it is kind of slouching down, trying to bring the shoulders in. There it is as a young transvestite, the shoulders, kind of boyish face there. Oh, there's the broad shoulders right there. Look at that. Yeah, it's like a man in a dress. The smile, right? The smile. distorts the face. It's always a fake smile, and they look a lot more feminine when they smile. See that? Most of these photos, this person has the fake smile. The smile of a deceiving demon. But it's got these huge teeth. Red lipstick, pink coat. Oh, look at this. There's Dustin Hoffman with a big smile. Lipstick, wig, covering up the neck. Ah, very similar look, isn't it? Yeah. See, Dustin Hoffman does not have an extremely masculine face, kind of a thin-faced person. Church lady. See that? This guy's not a masculine-looking guy. Like, you'd have no problem, like, getting in a fight with these two guys. It's not a problem. All-American, androgyne. We're going to take a look again at the Harvard University Hasty Pudding Club, which is America's oldest theater group. This is from their own YouTube channel. And it says right here, drag. There it is. Drag. They do drag. So they have a Hasty Pudding Woman of the Year. They also have a Man of the Year. I'll show you some of those people at the end of the video. The most recent one was Jennifer Garner, otherwise known as Electra. Sandra, Never Mind the Bullocks, Castrated Bull. Angelica Houston, Julia Roberts, Jamie Lee Curtis, Glenn, Not Close Enough. The list goes on. There's just too many to look at right now. But look at the third one ever in 1953 was good old Mamie Eisenhower, known best for Mamie Eisenhower's White House fudge. They all have one thing in common. That is, they are drag queens, and this is a drag queen club. Now, Dwight's kind of a funny-looking guy. He does have these wide, set-apart eyes, the faraway eyes. He has feminine-looking eyes, kind of a strange face. So I'm not sure what to make of Ike. He kind of looks like Don Rickles. So I don't know, do men just look like this? Maybe men look like this. Is it an FTM? I don't know. There's Ike as a young child. Again, he's got a bit of a distinctive look, a bit unusual. He does have a feminine quality. Maybe he's an androgyne. Could be a Free Martin. I don't know. Now, this is interesting. The family tree, the Eisenhowers merged with the Nixons. This is the grandson of Ike and Mamie, and this guy married into the Nixon family. Just like royalty, right? Just like the royal families, they like to marry into other prominent families. And there's a preview of the next video with one of the many Kennedys from the Kennedy Empire. All right, well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and let's close it out with a little song. I'd like to dedicate this song to Best True Man.
Yes, I hear you calling, but I can't come home right now. Me and the boys are playing, and we just can't find the sound. Just a few more hours, and I'll be right home to you. I think I hear them calling. Best what can I do? Best what can I do? You say you feel so empty. The White House just ain't a home, and I'm always somewhere else, and you're always there alone. Just a few more hours, and I'll be right home to you. I think I hear them calling. Best what can I do? Best what can I do? Yes, I know you're lonely, and I hope you'll be alright. 'Cause me and the boys will be playing all night.
All right, so let's take a look at this legendary, illustrious family, often called the American royal family, in fact. We'll start with Jacqueline Lee Kennedy Onassis, who was 31 years old when it became First Lady, had 4 children, 2 of whom died in infancy. So we got a couple extra dead Kennedys right off the bat. There's Jackie, otherwise known as Jack, when it was a young child. See, this one has a kind of Middle Eastern or even Persian look to it. Maybe it's Egyptian, whatever it is. Maybe this one comes from the Greek royal bloodlines. I don't know, but there's some ethnicity going on here different than what the official story is. And that's why this person was able to fool the masses by pretending to be a woman. Low body fat, broad shoulders. Cover of Time magazine. In fact, I think all these first ladies eventually wind up on the cover of Chronos magazine. See the long, slender, rectangular-shaped bone structure. Now, this person looks small, but doesn't seem to be that small when you see it compared to other men. Does have that rectangular bone structure, shoulders wider than the hips, very narrow pelvis. You can see that large rib cage up there on top. So I think this one is some kind of Persian or Middle Eastern or ancient Near Eastern androgyne. A lot of people think this is a pretty woman, but in fact, it's not pretty. Whatever it is, I wouldn't say pretty. They learn how to do this little smile, and they kind of overdo the fashion. In fact, this one was called a fashion icon. So, yeah, look at those broad shoulders there. So it's the certain ethnicities and certain men within certain ethnicities are able to demonstrate a feminine appearance better than other men. Yeah, see, look at that. It's just a little larger than you would expect overall. Even those guys look a bit taken aback. It's like, whoa. That's a dude. Even looks a bit muscular. And they always do this gentle little smile to make themselves look feminine. See that? It's like an Egyptian goddess with a long neck who's actually an androgynous goddess who's actually a man in drag. This seems to be another cult functionary of the goddess priesthood. See that masculine face there when it got older. And this is the official portrait of Jack, and it looks like a alien or an Egyptian god. Now we're going to move on to the siblings of JFK. There's a lot. There were 9 siblings. A whole bunch of them died, but we'll look at some of those who survived infancy, starting with Eunice. There's Eunice. Hard to tell so far. Whoa! Help me! Whoa! Speechless. I don't know if you just cue the scary music. Eunice, we have a problem. There's Eunice holding up Adam Cadmone, the celestial androgyne. Eunice as a young boy pretending to be a young girl, not pulling it off very well. People may have called this one a tomboy, but in fact it was just a boy. There's a young man wearing a dress. Again, look at the broad shoulders, the long arms. Not a whole lot of breast action going on either. Look at those legs. That's a masculine bone structure. Not too many women have arms that long. Walking like a man, big feet. The hidden hand. Got a secret. There's, you see the narrow pelvis. Now, this one started the Special Olympics. They always try to do a bit of good in the public while they do evil things behind the scenes. Broad shoulders. See, this one also, oh, look at those teeth. Those teeth are huge, man. Whoa. Those are vampire teeth. Whoa, yeah. This one had no problem eating food. Yeah. Now, this person may have been like 300 years old. We just don't know. Some pretty rough-looking skin you got there. But that is not an old lady. That's an old man. That's an old transvestite. Come on. Use your own brain. That's really bizarre. This is like Tales from the Crypt. They're doing some hand signs there, summoning help from the spirits above. And the spirits over there to the side. Now, this one is not as famous. I wonder why. They should have put this one on the cover of Time. This is Maria Shriver's supposed mother. Not sure Maria came out of that body. I'm not sure what these people are, actually. Not sure they're human. Maria Shriver, newscaster, supposed wife of Arnold Schwarzenegger, actor and governor of California, bodybuilder, real estate magnate. This one's done a lot of work on the face. Kind of looks like one of the boys. It's a wig. Something wrong with this person's face. This is another one that people thought were pretty, but there's a song that says, "Your pretty face is going to hell." Maria, what happened to your face? Eventually, when you mess with nature too much, it causes more harm than good. Now here it seems to be turning into a zombie. Yeah, you see, look at that body there. The legs, it's just not right. There's something wrong. This is not a normal woman. I suspect this is another transcaster, in fact. It's a transcaster. And it's a Kennedy, so Arnold became a Kennedy, basically. When a man marries a Kennedy, or an alleged man marries an alleged Kennedy female, they become Kennedys. Now, we all know there's something strange about Arnold, whose body seems to be unnatural and possibly manufactured. This is not a normal bodybuilding body. Are those breast removal scars on the chest? Something very strange going on with Arnold. Is his entire body fake? Are these all silicone implants? Just like you put fake boobs on a man to make him a tranny, you put fake muscles on a woman to make him a man. It's deformed. See here, it's deformed. He's doing a bit of shape-shifting there. So yeah, Arnold shows up in a Kennedy-themed video because Arnold is a Kennedy and was governor of California. And he does a bit of cross-dressing. In fact, he's wearing the church lady outfit, isn't he? Which was based on First Ladies. Now, in this movie, he was pregnant and had a baby. I actually never saw this movie, but Junior. So Arnold's pregnant in this movie. The pregnant man, the self-generating God. And there's some of their offspring. The seed, the fake smiles. Now, is that a man or a woman? That's the question. Same goes here. Are the women actually men? Are the men actually women? Something's not right with this family. And there's the daughter of Arnold and Maria. Did Arnold have the baby? And again, this one is passable to most people. Most guys would think this person's pretty hot. This is a fake person. When they kind of look like Barbie dolls or those plastic sex dolls, that's a good sign they're actually male to female. It's an androgyne, all right? It's not a real woman. It's a plastic person. This one's had a lot of work done. Very young person overall, but yet a lot of work done to create a fake female face with that fake smile. They're hiding something, crossing the legs, wearing a girly little dress, Now, this person is married to this person here, who I believe his name is Chris Pratt, who is a popular movie star, who supposedly was homeless, living in Hawaii in a van on the beach, and then he became a movie star, and now he is a Kennedy. This person is a member of the Kennedy family. And he was raised Lutheran and worked for Jews for Jesus. So I'm a little confused. And now he hangs out with trannies at the Hasty Pudding Drag Show Theater Group. Drag. There it is. Drag. They do drag. So these are the notable alumni. John Adams, second U.S. president, first vice president. His son, John Quincy Adams, sixth U.S. president. Theodore Roosevelt, 26th president of the United States. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We got another Roosevelt. Played a chorus girl. John F. Kennedy, 35th President of the United States, U.S. Senator, U.S. Representative, active member in the Hasty Pudding Club, and one of his relatives, Ted Kennedy, active Hasty Pudding Club member. See that? It runs in the family, just like religions run in the family. It's a family tradition, all right? Just like good old JFK and Uncle Ted, Chris Pratt is carrying on the family tradition. It's a family tradition with U.S. presidents and these American royal families. They got to hang out with the trannies. They got to be a tranny. They got to marry the tranny. They got to have tranny kids. This is their race. They might even be a different species. Him and the boys are playing all night. All right. Bobby Kennedy, another dead Kennedy. They're all dead Kennedys for the most part. Now, this was Bobby Kennedy's wife, Ethel Kennedy. Ethel's looking a little rough. Looks like Ethel's been staying up late. Ethel appears to be a drag queen. There's Ethel when it was a little bit younger. Still looks pretty funny. There's Ethel having a laugh. Another one of the boys is hanging out with Ethel. Uncle Ethel, again, it's not an old lady, it's an old man in drag with makeup and lipstick and a wig and a dress. Now, Ethel probably should have been First Lady. It's got that First Lady look, First Lady boy. Ethel would have been a great First Lady, but unfortunately we were denied the First Ladyhood of Ethel. But Ethel is a good Kennedy. And there's Ethel's alleged daughter, who has a very large body, like that of a man. Now it has a star. Is that a sevens-pointed star? Necklace, as they do. Pearl necklace this time. That's what they like to wear in the Order of the Seraphim. Now, is that Andy Bernard from The Office? Now, is this part beaver? What's the deal with your teeth? It's unfortunate. I'm sure people teased you about your teeth, but there's a lot of things people could have teased you about besides the teeth, that you are simply too large to fool anybody, and you should probably not have become a transvestite. You're too large and too tall and too masculine. It's not working. No one's going to believe it. But never underestimate the brainwashed morons to believe anything you tell them. There's Pat Lawford. This one has a pretty prominent brow bone. He's got that large theatrical face. Pat, are you a boy or a girl? A bit of masculine undertone underneath that makeup and wedding gown. Oh, these people are usually socialites. Yeah, Pat's looking a little rough. So it looks like Pat's another one of the boys. Large body, broad shoulders. Yeah, Pat's looking like a drag queen. There's a lot of drag queens in the Kennedy family. It's going to be kind of a long video. Pat's looking like a transvestite, covering up the neck. Oh, yeah, these Kennedy trannies don't age that well, apparently. Maybe that's why they all died young. Jean Kennedy Smith, ambassador to Ireland. In fact, there's a lot of ambassadors that come from the Kennedy family. another sibling of JFK. Oh yeah, Gene. Gene. G-E-N-E. Gene. I know some guys named Gene. Genetic. Generation. Genesis. Genetic editing. Genetic modification. Gene. So this one lived a pretty long life. Died at 92. Again, this one simply is not pulling it off. Look at that jaw. It's huge. Nice try, Gene. Yeah, you think that's a woman? Come on. Come on. That's actually kind of a normal-looking guy, except for the clothes he's wearing and the wig and the makeup. Nice pink thing around your neck. It's another one with the skin. It's got that Kennedy skin going on. Something out of a science fiction horror movie. If you're going to make a horror movie, I think you just got to look at some of these pictures and you can find the monster. Maybe I'm thinking of making a horror movie, calling it the Dead Kennedys, where these people come out of the grave looking like this. But it's a documentary. Yeah, these might be the inspiration for the Walking Dead zombies, in fact. Now, this one here died at age 28 in an airplane crash with its husband in 1948. So these are the siblings of JFK. Now, there's Caroline. Caroline is the child of JFK, in fact. Caroline Kennedy, also an ambassador, was ambassador to Japan, and now is ambassador to Australia. Caroline. Now, I've heard somewhere that Neil Diamond's song, Sweet Caroline, is based on this person here. I'm not sure if that's true. Sweet Caroline, I think, is a man. I just kind of ruined that song for everyone, I guess, but sorry about that. Yeah, there's a couple of trannies in back as well. Yeah, Sweet Caroline, good times never seem so good. I don't know how to play that. A little bit more passable than some of the other Kennedys out there, but another one of the boys, one of the Kennedy boys. See, the whole White House is basically this drag show. There it is, hanging out with the other drag queens of the White House, having a gay old time. Now, it looks pretty tall. I think Obama's over 6 feet tall. Obama, the first Indonesian president of the United States. So that one may be close to 6 feet, not quite 6 feet, but almost. And now this is the, I guess this is the offspring of Caroline, I think. There's so many Kennedys, hard to tell. So we'll just look at that one photo there. That's enough of that. And now, of course, we got this one here in the wife with the Adam's apple. You can see the Adam's apple right there on the wife. So I'm not going to even waste more time on these people, even though they're quite famous. There's just too many people already. Now here's another one. Now these are some of Ted Kennedy's wives. There's a couple of them. Good old Uncle Ted. Can feel the baby kicking inside there, maybe. Had a bit of work done on the face. Yeah, a little bit more work done on the face as well. See, it never stops. It's like an addiction. They keep doing more and more work on the face till their face just completely falls off because they're going against nature. All right, here's another ambassador to Austria. So there's two Kennedys at least who are ambassadors right now at this moment. See, these people just don't go away, do they? This is one of the former wives of Kennedy, who also appears to be another drag queen. Pretty large body overall. And you got to wonder a little bit about Ted with his small little fingers there. He kind of looks like Trump a little bit, in fact. Yeah, look at that face. It's just a little too large. This person has a large body mass. All right, now here's Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the guy who writes books about vaccines. He is married to this movie star here, or this celebrity, who seems to have an inverted body, seems to be one of the boys, seems to be in the club. You're going to trust a Kennedy to lead the resistance. Is that what you're going to do? Really? A Kennedy. Do you think a Kennedy cares about you? Do you think a Kennedy is going to help you? All right, this is called controlled opposition. If the person you think is on your side actually has a transvestite wife, well, that's a good chance that he's not really on your side. He's controlled opposition. He's one of them. So we think we have this guy working for us. He's on the case. He's going to see justice be done. No, he's not. And these guys tend to believe that the pandemic was real. They always think that there was a real pandemic. And that is a very serious lie, actually. That's the lie. That's the lie. These people are liars, all right? They give you a little bit of truth here and there, but their overall underlying view is a lie. Now, finally, we'll take a look at the mother of JFK and all those other children. This one's a little difficult. It's got the Star of Royalty there. Mother of JFK. Rose, right? Every rose has a thorn. The Rosicrucians, Rosebud. So again, is that just a kind of a masculine-looking woman, or is that a feminine-looking man? Ladies' Circle. How are these people vampires? See, there it kind of looks like Jimmy Page. It's hard to tell the difference. Is Jimmy Page an old woman? Or is Rose Kennedy an old man? What's going on here? Is that pulling the shoulders back to make them appear more narrow? Now, the shoulders are not extremely large here. Yeah, Rose Kennedy, you'll have to decide for yourself on this one. See a photo like that. It looks a little strange, though, right? Looks like Martin Short. This is one of JFK's sisters. They gave this one a lobotomy when she was 23 years of age. Rosemary, the hidden Kennedy daughter. So I think this Kennedy assassination was a total hoax. I don't think it actually happened. I think it was a trauma-based mind control event to traumatize the public. That's how they manipulate the masses. And listen to this. We all know this clip from the BBC where this newscaster announced the collapse of Building 7 before it actually happened. But listen to what they say about trauma and confusion, and people don't know where to turn.
Jane, I think many of us, when we heard the news, perhaps on the radio earlier today, were completely flabbergasted by it and just couldn't comprehend it. I mean, it almost sounded too far-fetched.
I don't really know where to turn. That's the very sad thing. I think there's going to be a lot of very, very traumatized people that has hit them very, very hard.
They are telling us that this 9/11 staged event is a trauma-based mind control event to control the minds of the population. And they repeat these trauma-based mind control events over and over and over. They take a different shape and a different form, slightly different narrative, but they're always trauma-based mind control events. And it's almost as if the entire population is getting a lobotomy.
Lobotomy, 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 lobotomy. The vaccine did a job on me. Now I am a real sickie. I guess I'll have to break the news that I got no mind to lose. All the girls are in love with me. I'm a teenage lobotomy. 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 Slugs and snails are after me. The vaccine keeps me happy. Now I guess I'll have to tell them that I got no cerebellum. Gonna get my PhD. I'm a teenage lobotomy. 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 Lobotomy.
All right, heading down into the home stretch on the first Ladyboys videos. Here's a good preview of what's to come. Today's video will focus on only two first ladies and their families Lady Bird Johnson and Pat Nixon, who are actually the two fine ladies sitting on the left. Official name Claudia Lady Bird Johnson. Could it be that Lady Bird is actually a lady boy? Let's investigate and see if we can solve this mystery. Now this one, in a way, it's a little difficult to prove, but I think this is a Ladyboy Johnson, possibly a ladyboy who still has a Johnson hiding in plain sight, as the book says right there. Some of you may think that's kind of a strange-looking woman, but this photo here, there's some very masculine arms going on, broad shoulders. The arms are long and masculine. Yeah, see, there's something about that mouth and the jaw. Could be another Greek one after Kennedy. I just don't think that's really a woman. See, there's Jack Kennedy, who looks kind of like an alien and seems to be taller than this one here. So I do think it's possible there's been a real female first lady, but so far I haven't seen any. I'm not sure that this would be the exception. I'm pretty skeptical. Kind of softened up a bit. Doesn't seem to be going to the gym and working out, which is probably a good idea if you're trying to be a ladyboy in the public spotlight. Yeah, there's something about the shape of that skull. You know, if you just removed the wig and the makeup and the clothing like that and just had it dress up like a man, it would look like a guy. See, this one could not pull off trying to look pretty like Jack Kennedy tried to look like a pretty one, and sometimes they can kind of pull that off, at least enough to fool the masses, which is not really that hard to do, apparently. It almost looks like George Soros there, right? So I don't know if they're related. Now, they had a couple of daughters that we're going to take a look at. They seem to have pretty large heads. You can see those two people there with the large heads. It looks like three drag queens right there. So we're going to look at Linda Bird Johnson. So we had Lady Bird Johnson. Now we got Linda Bird Johnson Robb, who was the wife of a governor. All right? Wife of a governor. See, these people don't just go away. They get stuck in the machine, in the ruling class. Now, is that a woman or a man? It's somewhat difficult to tell there. It does have a pretty deep-set eyes. See, there's something off with this person. Now, it's possible a woman could kind of look like this. Those ears are pretty large. So, you know, we just have to observe. It does seem like there's an Adam's apple there. Yeah, see, look at those shoulders. That's a pretty large frame, Adam's apple. It kind of looks like a dude in makeup, in a wig, in a red dress, and a pearl necklace to me. And there again, that's looking a lot like a drag queen to me. I mean, a real woman might look kind of similar to that, almost. But see, look at those shoulders. Now, part of that could be shoulder pads on the dress, but still, it's a pretty rectangular-shaped frame on that body. And tall. Look at George Bush is about 6 feet tall, and they're about the same height. Yeah, so that's, you know, I think I've only met one woman in my life who's been like 6 feet tall. Lucy Baines Johnson, former first daughter of Ladyboy Johnson. So again, there's a bit of a masculine feature to that face. That was a little bit pudgy. So it does kind of cover up the bone structure a little bit. Now, is that kind of a larger guy with a wig? Yeah, see, there's something kind of masculine. It looks kind of like a pudgy boy. That's a pretty large body, if you think about it. You know what I mean? I don't think that's kind of a large woman. Now, there it is when it's older. A little thinner, actually. It does kind of look like a transvestite a little bit now, right? Now, why is it doing the Pelosi smile? That is something that the transvestites do to try to feminize their face. There's Pelosi. Speak of the devil. That's why sometimes these politicians are kind of hard, because they're not trying to look like pretty women, usually. They're trying to look kind of like serious or even homely women. They're basically just putting on a dress and a wig and some makeup, and they don't look like pretty women, so we just assume they're kind of unattractive women. And then we just kind of leave it there, you know what I mean? So I guess that's the question. Are these relatively strange and unattractive looking women, Or are they just drag queens? Are they just men in drag who did not do a whole lot of feminization procedures to make them more palatable? But one question you do have to ask is, why would a powerful man like the President of the United States be married to such an unattractive woman? And I'm not saying looks are everything, of course, but something to think about. And let's take a look at Pat Nixon. Thelma Catherine Pat Nixon. Pat, is it a girl or a boy? Well, it does seem to have a pretty square jaw. And not exactly a huge person necessarily, but fairly square shoulders as well. It's the square head that concerns me with this one. It has a pretty angular jaw, prominent cheekbones. So I do think there is a manly quality to this person. If you can just look behind the makeup and the wig and the dress. Now, those are some pretty large hands and some pretty long fingers. And again, you got that square jaw. So even if you thought that's a real female, you must admit that's a pretty masculine looking face overall. You see the brow bone there, the square jaw, somewhat of a thick neck. So for me, I'm thinking that's a transvestite. Now the dress flares out on the bottom. Yeah, even that stance right there, those shoulders, the whole torso looks very rectangular, and they kind of put that belt up high so the dress flares out. This one seems to be wearing a waistband or a corset, actually. See, it's wearing a corset now in two different photos back to back. And look at that huge jaw. That is almost a bulldozer jaw. You could say that's a bulldozer jaw, in fact, this one here. So now you can think what you want about Tricky Dick over there. Not quite sure what to make of him. He does have a strange and unusual face, actually. Maybe he just found out right there, right? There's the moment he found out his wife was a man.
No! No!
And he's related to Jimmy Carter and Bill Gates. So this early settler in Boston, Thomas Cornell, had these descendants here, including Bill Gates, Jimmy Carter, Richard Nixon, and serial killer, axe murderer Lizzie Borden. Now it kind of makes sense that Bill Gates would be related to an axe murderer. It's all starting to make sense now. So like I've said many times, these people all seem to be related to each other somehow. Now here's some of the offspring. Tricia Nixon Cox. In fact, Patricia. So this is also Pat. This is actually Pat Cox. Pat Cox. Now, however, Pat Cox actually may be a real female, even though it has the name of a transvestite. Pat Cox, cover of Life magazine. So I'm not sure if this one was kind of well known back in the day, maybe a socialite or something. But and this one married some kind of prominent businessman or something, another prominent family. It's hard to know what to make of Pat Cox. Not very tall, although it does kind of have that one of the boys kind of look, but it's difficult to tell. Could go either way. I'm not sure what to make of Pat Cox here. Now, there were rumors that Tricia Cox would get married to Prince Charles, currently King Charles, and there they are together. So I'm not so sure Prince Charles would want to marry a biological female. Those are just rumors, though. It didn't actually happen. So there's always some really strange bits of information you get by looking at these people. And here's the other daughter, Julia Eisenhower. So this one married the grandson of President Eisenhower. Kind of kept it all in the family. This one looks like a real woman to me. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. Not an obvious transvestite to me, but you never know. Maybe I'm just deceived. And this is Hannah Milhouse Nixon, the mother of Tricky Dick. Now this one, you'd think it would just be a woman, but see, there's the bulldozer jaw of the wife. For some reason, the face is covered up. And there's the mother. Now the mother, I didn't think the mother would be a man, but it almost kind of looks like a man, doesn't it? I mean, what's going on with that mother? You do have to be careful when people get older. It's harder to tell, but not quite sure what to make of this mother of Nixon. And who knows, maybe Nixon himself has a few strange biological anomalies as well. So I'm not sure what's going on with Tricky Dick. So at least in this video, I think we've shown once again that, at least in my opinion, the first ladies are in fact men, as usual. Some of the daughters, questionable. Some of them may be real females. And also some of the mothers of these people may actually be men. And so it does make you wonder, where do the babies come from and all that stuff. There's a lot of unsolved mysteries surrounding these people. We know that the surface level of these people is not the entire story. There's some very strange things going on behind the scenes. No! Back again. Today we're going to look at Betty Ford. Betty Ford was a First Lady, woman's advocate, survivor, and a trailblazer. All right, sounds like a feminist. And we know who really started the feminist movement. It wasn't started by women. Now, if we're going to take a forensic examination of this person and the bone structure, first thing I notice is broad shoulders and a long rectangular upper body and a turtleneck. That looks like a typical male frame and kind of a ridiculous looking wig. It's like the standard it's like the standard issue First Lady wig. It's a costume. And they learn how to do these fake smiles so they look like nice people, so we trust them. It's got a scarf around the neck there again. Lots of scarves around the neck. Why is that? Are you trying to cover something up? What could it possibly be? Now there it is. Look at the cover of Time magazine, and you can actually see the Adam's apple. There it is, putting it right out there on the cover of magazines, flaunting it right in our face. They love to hide in plain sight. That's why this one's always covering up the neck. Talking about the strength. See that? The little captions, always talking about how strong these women are because the comet is coming. Cover of People, quote-unquote, People magazine with Cher. Well, we know what Cher is. Yeah, that looks like a dude with a wig and a neck scarf, if you ask me. Bit of makeup. There it is when it's younger. A bit more passable back then, but still a bit masculine overall. The head and the neck, and the shoulders. Playing a little ice hockey, as they do. I know one woman who played ice hockey when I was growing up. That's it. One of the women of the year. I'm not sure if any of these are actually women. And there it is standing on a table in the White House. Now, that's something only a tranny would do, right? I mean, you'd expect a tranny to stand on a table in the White House. Real woman wouldn't pose like that, all right? That's just not how it works. Barefoot. There it is standing in front of the obelisk. See that smile there? It's fake. It's like like in the movies, when the aliens come to Earth, they pretend to be nice people. That's what this reminds me of. They're hiding something. It's all fake. And this person's always covering up the neck. Well, there it's not, but it looks a little more obvious. See, there it is trying to kind of hide the hands there. Like they don't know what to do with these long arms and big hands, so they always got to cover it up. Looks like a nice person, right? You know, founded some kind of rehabilitation clinic, Betty Ford Clinic, right? They always do nice things. They're you know, it's a tax shelter. It's philanthropy. They have these foundations. There's just something that looks off. If you want to transvestigate the presidents, go ahead. If you think they're all FTMs, that's great. Put it in the comments. Make a video. I'm just not focused on that right now. That's a different set of data, which I'm not focused on right now. Ooh, that's kind of nauseating there. Yeah. See again, broad shoulders, but a narrow pelvis. Long fingers. Yeah. See, they're passable enough to fool the masses. And they did. They fooled everybody. Nobody knew this person was a man or any of these people. And as they get older, they just look kind of scary. I mean, see, look at when they're sitting down on these talk shows, you see the broad shoulders and kind of the awkward position of the arms and the hands. Now there it is. See, sometimes it looks short, but here it almost looks the same height as these other guys. Now, maybe some women wear a neck scarf now and then for fashion purposes, but these people do it for a very practical purpose, for deception and concealment, hidden in plain sight. That's what they like to do. They love to hide in plain sight. See, there it looks a lot shorter as it gets older, very short, in fact. But how come it didn't look that short before? See, there it doesn't look so short. Gerald looks pretty tall. Now there's Gerald hanging out with Mao Zedong and Kissinger, planning the New World Order back then. He's having a gay old time. And there's a family. They had some sons and a daughter. We'll take a look at the daughter, although I think the daughter might be a real woman. Yeah, there it is. So you could almost kind of go either way. I think it's one of these kind of, I don't know how else to say it. It could be one of these kind of butch women, you know what I mean? But for some reason, I have an instinct that this is actually a female, like kind of a butch-looking female. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards, but maybe I'll just remain undecided. Yeah, see that? You see some women who look like something like that, right? Kind of a stronger-looking woman, you know what I mean? That's what I think this is here, but maybe you disagree. Maybe I'm wrong. So make up your own mind on this one, and all of them, really. See, there it looks a little funny, right? When it's, maybe it's all the makeup and strange clothes, and the neck covering as well, right? So I think my bias is I'm hoping to find some real females. Some of these children may have been real females, and if they are real females, you got to wonder, like, why? Why did they allow that to happen? Did they get some kind of exception to the rule? See, there it is hanging out with George Bush. George Bush is generally surrounded by a bunch of trannies. It may not be as black and white, you know what I mean? Maybe it's not that simple where they're all trannies. Once in a while they may have a real normal child mixed in there, so it's not so simple to figure out sometimes. Here's some of the creatures we're going to look at in forthcoming videos, and the next video will be about Rosalind Carter, who Mr. Bush is pointing at, the one on the right in the purple. All right, so I think I can safely conclude that Betty Ford is a ladyboy, a drag queen in office, according to their practices, their religion, their way of life. They're goddess worshippers, and the goddess has transvestite followers or priests. They serve some kind of function, they're kind of like a priest or a prophet even for the pagan gods, for the demonic entities, if you will, the fallen angels. Maybe the way it works is that if the president, let's just say the president is male, they have to go through the tranny to contact the demonic entity, something like that. That may be what's going on. But it's a tradition. The kings throughout history have always had transvestites and eunuchs and all these people surrounding them. The kings and the rulers are always trying to associate themselves with the divine by either claiming to be divine. A lot of the Roman emperors claimed to be gods or descendants of gods, and same with the pharaohs, and it still goes on today. And I think it's going on with these presidents as well, even though they only serve for 4 to 8 years or so. They're not acting like public servants, that's for sure. They're acting like kings and demigods, you know what I mean? And nothing's really changed for thousands of years. These same types of people are ruling the world. It's Babylon. It's the beast. They will all be destroyed. That's it for today, and see you next time. All right, let's take a look at Rosalind Carter, who says right here on quote-unquote People magazine, the new First Lady, Rosalind Carter, will be tough, busy, and right at Jimmy's elbow. So they're always portrayed as these tough women. And let's see how tough this one really is. Maybe a little tougher than we thought. Now, this one is still alive, actually. I think it's about 95 years old and was recently in a photo shoot with Joe and Dr. Jill Biden. And it's a very strange photo. I did see someone try to explain this one away, saying that it's the lens and the camera angle that makes them look so short, and they're sinking into the cushions, and they're old, and so they're shrinking a bit. But either way, I mean, they should not have really published this photo. It just doesn't look good. It's a strange photo. It's like a joke. Most people would say this is photoshopped, I guess, but very strange. Either way, Joe Biden is basically Carter Part 2. In fact, Carter is the first president I remember. I was alive during the Ford administration, but I was too young to really pay attention to that stuff. But I do remember the Carter administration. I remember long lines at the gas station, energy crisis, all kinds of problems. And remember this one, the Iran hostage situation, which nobody really talks about anymore. 444 days holding Americans hostage. Now, was this some kind of psyop or not? I really don't know. Possibly. But we do notice that they put masks on their faces. It's basically a blindfold, but it's kind of like a mask as well, right? They put masks on American hostages, and now Joe Biden puts masks on American citizens in our own country. So we can see how this works. But a lot of people thought Carter was the worst president in history, but I think Joe has probably beat him. So there's Rosalind Carter, equal partner, equilibrium, equal, right? Equal rights, ERA. Men and women are equal androgyny. It's kind of hard to tell with that photo there. Basically looks like a girl, but the head is a little bit large. In fact, this one does have a large head in most of these photos. So you can see there, the head is actually larger than Jimmy's. And again, if you want to go ahead and transvestigate Jimmy Carter yourself, please go ahead. I'm not focused on that now. There's Waylon Jennings, of all people. See, even Waylon and the guy in the back, they're checking out Rosalind. They're like, whoa, there's something off about this person here. In fact, Rosalind Carter actually seems a bit more masculine than Jimmy, right? If you just kind of ignore that wig, I mean, there's this kind of a masculine energy in a larger head on the alleged wife. I actually met Jimmy Carter once and seemed like a nice guy, tall, probably just as tall as me. But this one here, it's got those prominent cheekbones. See, they're always doing that smile to make them look like nice people, right? Oh, I'm just a simple woman. I'm just here to help. I'm just here to serve American citizens. No, these people, this is the First Lady and the President. They have a very powerful position. They're not thinking about being nice and friendly. They're thinking about power. Oh, I'm just a peanut farmer from Georgia. Yeah, but you got a tranny wife. What's going on there? And these people claim to be Christians and stuff, but maybe they're Gnostic, you know. It's Masons, a lot of Freemasons claim to be Christian, all right? But they look at it very differently. Now, when it's older, likes to wear sunglasses and a bit of a disguise almost. Seems to have gotten some plastic surgery. Now, again, these people are like in their 90s right now. So most people don't even live this long. And a lot of these first ladies live into their 90s. These first ladies are living longer than most people. Wonder why that is. So is that just kind of a woman in her 90s, or is that a dude, an aging drag queen? I think the head is just too large to be a real woman. You know what I mean? To me, this one's pretty obvious, but it's, oh, look at the hidden hand. Yeah, it's got a male skull. I mean, it really does. And there, see, when it's not smiling, it does look pretty tough, kind of mean and nasty. And you can see some of the masculine bone structure there, the brow bone and stuff like that. It's got a lot of work done on the face. More than a real woman would, you know what I mean? Like, this is transvestite level plastic surgery going on here. This is not just aging female level plastic surgery. This is plastic surgery disaster territory. And there's Amy. I remember Amy was always in the news for some reason. Amy, the daughter, Amy Carter was always kind of, they always talked about Amy in the media. Amy Carter and Daddy. See right there on the cover of People magazine. Now, Amy kind of looks like a little boy. Without that haircut, it almost looks like Ron Howard from the Andy Griffith Show. I don't think it is, but I think it was kind of like the tomboy type of character, kind of a nerdy tomboy with glasses, which is kind of a disguise. Yeah, see, that looks like a boy. That's like a boy face. You know what I mean? I mean, it can be hard to tell with young children, but there it is, roller skating. But I think this looks like a little boy to me, you know what I mean? And this one kind of disappeared as an adult. Oh, there it is hanging out with Fonzie. Speaking of Ron Howard and Happy Days and Fonzie. What's going on here? Kind of a coincidence. I didn't even think about that. Now, there it is, supposedly now. Is that even the same person? It looks kind of like a woman now. But, and I couldn't find too many photos of it now. It's kind of vanished, basically. So, I don't know. Amy's looking a little bit suspect to me. Now here's the mother of Jimmy Carter, Lillian Carter. Let's see how remarkable this is. Very remarkable. So again, this one was like always old, apparently. There's not too many photos of this one when it was young. And it seems to be very old. I don't know how old this one was, but looks to be another one in the 90s or something. A very masculine face, though, you know what I'm saying? There it is, experimenting on dark-skinned people. Very compassionate. Yeah, we're just trying to help out the dark-skinned people. Roll up your sleeve. Going to do a little experiment for the greater good. We're going to transform humanity into gods and slaves. We'll be the gods, you be the slaves. How's that? That's fair. That's the way it's always been. Yeah, this one's got a very manly face, if you ask me. Like the word feminine and Lillian Carter don't really match. You see this person, you're like, that's a really feminine woman. Not really. You don't really say that. See, we don't have very good photos when it was younger. I guess that was back when it was on Little House on the Prairie. See, there it is right there. It looks like some kind of creature from a horror movie. Bela Lugosi. Now, it looks like it has wide hips, but that could just be the clothes and the dress. You know, you can fake the hips. Just like they fake the breasts, they fake the hips. No problem. See, that face is very masculine, you know, so... Yeah, it's very, very doubtful that's a real woman. I mean, you never know. Maybe it is. Maybe there's just, you know, I don't know. My bias now is that I want them to be real women. So, but just looking objectively, it's really hard to say that's a real woman. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think a lot of these Carter women are actually men, including the First Lady again. So here's a few more coming up in the future episodes. So Rosalind is there on the right, and we got the Bush, Clinton, another Bush, and then Obama. Look at how tall Obama is there. Wow. So which one of these might be a real female? That is the question. Stay tuned as we continue our quest in search of a real female in the White House.
This series presents information based in part on theory and conjecture. The producer's purpose is to suggest some possible explanations, but not necessarily the only ones, to the mysteries we will examine.
Today we're going to look at Nancy Reagan, wife of Ronald Reagan, Republican president in the 80s. There's Nancy. Now, what's that on your neck there? I'm a little concerned about the neck. Bedtime for Bonzo. What's going on? Is that an Adam's apple I see? And is that a son or a daughter? We're going to investigate all of these matters today. I still see something on your neck that shouldn't be there. Found only on men. What's with those broad shoulders? You got one of those hard, firm skulls, painted with makeup and female clothing. Pearl necklace. Are those real boobs? Prominent cheekbones and brow bone. Large jaw, actually. Large head relative to the size of this body. It's got an oversized head. Now, is that because the brain is so large? Looks kind of like an alien there. Broad shoulders, Adam's apple. massive, strong, prominent jaw and brow bone. Lots of makeup, female clothing. Again, you got those broad shoulders and the Adam's apple. What's going on? Nancy Reagan, a Republican. They can't be trannies, can they? It's impossible. Something's not right with the right. Now, remember the Reagan years, we had the nuclear war propaganda. In fact, I was a teenager during that time, and I thought that the world would end back then. Then later on in life, I realized nuclear weapons do not exist. Try to tell people that, they get upset. They love nuclear weapons. Corset around the waist. The dress flares out, but the hips do not. It's one of their magic tricks. It's an illusion. Masters of illusion. See, Nancy's head is the same size as Ronald's, maybe even larger. In fact, Ronald doesn't have much of a jaw, does he? And in fact, I would put Ronald on the FTM watch list, at least. He's another one of these guys with these high-pitched voices. What's the deal with that? Maybe it makes them less threatening. Is he a castrated man? Is he an FTM? I don't know. But this one, see, you just got to look. You got to observe. Observe carefully. The smile. This one's a master of the smile. The fake smiles. To fool us. It's one of the greatest ways to fool somebody is to smile and be friendly. I mean, people are gullible. People don't realize when they're being deceived. Yeah, look at that head. It's all tranny all the time. It's in disguise. Now, this is a pretty small person, I think, so it could be of a certain ethnicity where the men are smaller than normal. You know what I mean? There's a few different examples you could think of. Even Willis knows what's going on. He's like, whoa, got this white tranny on the show now. His show's going downhill. And Arnold's like, what you talking about, Willis? No hips there on the horse. Got a horse face. Now, which one's the horse? But the person riding the horse doesn't have any hips. Cover of Time magazine, Kronos, as usual. The White House co-star. See, these people have more power than we realize. There's something weird and strange going on. There's something magical. They're using dark arts. There's the androgyny dress, half and half. Not a good look, I might add. Now, maybe sometimes women wear a dress like that. I don't know, but the trannies sure love it. Crossing the legs. Trying to look feminine. Adam's apple, shoulders. It kind of reminds me of like Herman Munster or something. I don't know. It doesn't look right. It's not good. It's fake. See that? Look at the bones in the head. Casting pearls before the swine. Is that a demon or a first lady? It's getting hard to tell. You got a mustache? What's going on there? Is that a clown? Is that the Joker? They should have cast Nancy as the Joker instead of Jack Nicholson. See, there's a man inside of there. It's like an old Jewish dude, all right? They don't live in the States. They're the ruling class. They rule over the States. Now we're going to take a look at the daughter, Pat Davis, like David. There's little David next to his mother with the Adam's apple. David's the one in the dress. Patty. It's Pat David. Pat. They call me Pat. People magazine, quote unquote, people, hand in the pockets, veins sticking out of the wrist. Now this one was on the cover of Playboy, posing nude. And look who else is on the cover. Bill Gates. Don't get me started on that one. And here you see the Adonis belt a little better on this one here. Look at the hips. Look at the torso. Where are the female hips? That's a straight up and down, firm male torso. All right. Now it kind of looks like a girl, right? It does. It kind of looks like a large horse-faced woman. No offense to the large horse-faced women out there. We love you. This person is trying to imitate you. This is a fake horse-faced woman. It's a horse-faced tranny with the scarf around the neck, sunglasses, hair covering the face. It's got that Alanis Morissette look going on. Isn't it ironic? Like father, like son. This one has learned the art of the kind smile while they're lying to us. Where's the feminine hips there? I don't see it. And look at that. Look at that back. Strong back. Triceps. What's up with the triceps and the shoulder muscles? This one's got a muscular back. Now, there's more to this photo. I'm not showing it because it's basically nude, but it is crossing the legs as well, trying to pretend to have a curve. Look at that. Not crossing the legs. And, of course, Getty Images always puts their slogan right over the Adonis belt. They always do that. Why is that? What are they trying to cover up? There's the neck scarf as well. But that's a straight up and down male torso. That's the first place I look. Shoulder to hip ratio. All right, so it's about all the bones. You got to look at the whole package, make the observations, do the analysis, and if you have enough data, you can come to a conclusion. Look at that, when it's younger. Starting the plastic surgery facial feminization regime. There it is with the Adam's apple and the androgyny. Again, you see it there. Looks like it's got some man hands doing a bit of yoga. Now, this one married like a yoga teacher or something before it got divorced. No children. Adam's apple. Maybe the Adam's apple prevented you from having children and breastfeeding. But you showed your breasts in the Playboy, didn't you? Yeah, so he's got one of these large faces. A little bit larger than a large woman. Yeah, see, look at that. A lot of surgery going on. Major facelift. Scrunched up the skin around the nose. That's pretty weird looking. I know a guy who had plastic surgery done, an older guy, like in his 70s, trying to look younger. It looks pretty ridiculous, but it looks kind of like this, actually. Those cheekbones. It's like a dude with a facelift. Now, this one's been in the film industry. The Love Boat, classics, right? These are all-time classic TV shows. The Love Boat, Chips, Fantasy Island, the holy trinity of cheesy 70s TV shows. Heart to Heart, it just gets better. I've learned to respect my body. Ronald Reagan's daughter, Patty Davis, poses nude at 58. So it posed nude again. Once, in fact, the Playboy was from 1994, and then it did it later when it was 58 in the year 2011. Now here's some footage of a video it did for Playboy as well, where it did full nudity, total nudity. I'm not going to show it, but I would suspect this one has had major surgery done, if you know what I mean. Major surgery, because it's going all in for Kabbalah. It's going all in for androgyny. It's their religion. It's their way of life. And they rule over us. For now, in this temporary realm of sin and death and debauchery and depravity. See, that's the kingdom of Adam, right? The fallen kingdom of Adam. There are two kingdoms overlapping right now at the same time. Someday the kingdom of Adam will be completely annihilated. All right, so I hope this helped you understand the world a little bit better. Nuclear weapons don't exist. But they can do, they could easily do nuclear war, narrative, nuclear strike, tactical nuclear weapon attack, whatever. They can do any narrative they want. And as long as they repeat it with the right newscasters, it will be able to fool a lot of people. Now, hopefully at this point, more people are realizing that everything they see on TV is a lie. All the newscasters are lying. All the politicians are lying. Watch out for the controlled opposition. And in fact, one way that I use is the transvestigation, because transvestigation is really a way to see if someone's a Freemason or not, if they're practicing Kabbalah. So if they have a tranny wife, pretty good chance they're a Freemason. If they are a tranny, it's a good chance they're a Freemason. So if you spot the tranny, you spot the Freemason, right? And they're on both the left and the right. They're all over the place. And that's okay. This world is coming to an end, and a new world is about to begin.